41, 1, 26, 48, 7. Thanks for playing. The Pennsylvania Lottery benefits older Pennsylvanians every day.
Welcome to Fox 29. This is Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray. If it's breaking, if it's live, if it's new, we got you. So this is an interactive news conversation where you are able to interact with us. You're able to talk to us. You're able to ask questions to any reporter, to our meteorologist. There's so much that we need to go over, everything happening around the country, even some things internationally. And of course, we're going to touch base on some of those hyper local stories as well. So first and foremost, to my left, you're taking a live look at the gorgeous city skyline here in Philadelphia. I mean, seeing how the sun is just glistening off the water, and it's like a paid actor. We just got that bird to fly through. Oh, and a couple more. So it's obviously a party here. We are enjoying this gorgeous, beautiful weather. We'll be touching base with one of our meteorologists in just a second. But as a reminder, I mean, today we hit 80 some odd degrees. Like, if you didn't make it outside, I am so sorry, but you got plenty of time to get out there later on. I'll be going over some of the fun things that you could be doing to celebrate Cinco de Mayo a little later on as well. And then we'll go to my bottom right. You're going to take a look at Citizens Bank Park because we know that the Phillies, they are undergoing one of 3 games. This is a big series coming up right now for us. That game started at 6:40, so we'll be touching base with our sports team just to see how our boys are out there doing. But again, a very big game. We're taking on the Athletics, and we're hoping to bring home the W. I mean, if you are a Sixers fan, we need a win somewhere, right? Right. Okay. Now on to something more serious. At the bottom left hand of my screen, you're taking a look at Sky Fox video. Our chopper flew over this scene. Now you see that it's a playground, but if you look a little closer, you will notice that there is a truck on its side, like literally feet away from where kids would be playing. I believe that's a set of monkey bars that we see right by it. And as the chopper pans over, you're seeing another accident in the middle of the street, a crash. So we know multiple vehicles were part of this incident. It's a very big situation that we have been trying to get more and more information on for all of you. While Sky Fox was in the air capturing this video for you all, our Jeff Skaversky, reporter, was down on the grounds getting all that he could, including some incredible surveillance video, talking to the people on the ground, seeing how this situation happened, how everybody was taking it, and hopefully hearing that maybe there weren't any accidents, any victims in this case. But Jeff, I want to ask you, you got all the information. What have you learned so far?
Yeah, a stolen truck in the middle of the afternoon crashed into this elementary school playground. It all happened in broad daylight while school was still in session. Take a look. This all happened in Southwest Philadelphia at 55th and Kingsessing at Mitchell Elementary School at 2:20 in the afternoon. This is the scene. A truck went through the fence, crashed into the playground, taking out a portion of the structure and overturned. A school official tells us no children, thankfully, were injured. They were just heading inside from recess when this happened around 2:20. Moments earlier, it could have been a catastrophe. Here's surveillance video from a corner restaurant. As you can see, the truck appears to run a red light at the corner of 55th and Kingsessing Avenue, slams into another car, and then crashes into the playground at Mitchell Elementary. A contractor on the scene tells us this was his work truck. It was stolen minutes earlier and just blocks away before this happened and the crash occurred, and it was on its side. We spoke to the school crossing guard who witnessed the entire scene, and he was seen running from the incident as he was moments away from the crash, and he tells us he is lucky to be alive tonight.
Luckily I was under the tree getting some shade, but I seen it. If y'all zoom in, I run that way towards the spinning car. Then I see the other car, but then I'm like, the kids are in the schoolyard. So I run in the schoolyard. The one little young boy was right up under the thing. Drag him up under there. That was all I was worried about. Then there was somebody else in the truck, but that was it.
Yeah, and please tell us tonight that the person driving that stolen vehicle is in their custody. The other person that was in the vehicle that car initially hit, they have been taken to the hospital, treated for their injuries. And crews have been out here all afternoon for hours. As you can see behind me, this fence has been boarded up as there is a big gap in the fence from the accident. The playground has been boarded up, but again, thankfully, no injuries, no students, no teachers, no staff were injured in what could have been a catastrophe. This happened moments earlier. We're live tonight in Southwest Philadelphia. Jeff Skaversky, Fox 29 News.
Jeff, you have gotten so much information in such a short period of time, and I want to put this in perspective. This is the second story that we have gotten in maybe the last couple of weeks, I would say within a 2-week span, where we're hearing about something happening so close to a school. The last person, I think it was Chris O'Connell, reporting for us about this speeding car that eventually hit another car and actually hit a pedestrian as well. So now we're on the scene of this playground incident. You had mentioned that surveillance video. I know there's some sound on it that is just insane. I want to see if we can play that for our audience real quick. Give me a second, Jeff. Just mowed that vehicle over, and as you can see, people running out like, what just happened? And so you got out there, you got to talk to people. That's how you got some of the witness statements that you've gotten so far. I know you're going to be live for us at 10. Is there anything that we're expecting that we haven't seen or heard just yet?
Yeah, we're going to hear more from that crossing guard who, again, is lucky to be alive tonight. He was standing right here underneath that tree getting some shade, and it narrowly missed him. We're also going to talk to a parent whose daughter attends this school. The student obviously very just shaken by this incident tonight. And we're going to hear from her, and we'll have much more details coming up at 10 o'clock.
Thank you so much for giving this to us as you could. Right now, our audience is pouring into the live stream, seeing these images that you were able to get back to us, and they are just amazed. Again, you guys, you're going to see Jeff again at 10 o'clock, so don't go too far. Jeff, thank you so much for bringing us this report. And I want to remind you all, too, that when stuff happens, it's breaking news. I want to make sure that you have downloaded the Fox Local app. It's free, first and foremost, but also we're able to get out to you some push notifications. So when that breaking news happened, if you were someone who was in the area, you would have been able to get it very quickly straight to your phone. Here's what happened. We have an article, any videos attached to it. Those things would have been coming to your phone in real time. So I just want to encourage you all, if you don't already have it, try the Fox Local app. You can also stream more of this show and the other shows that we have here at Fox 29 on it. You'll see reporters just like Jeff giving you live reports from anything that's going on around Pennsylvania, around New Jersey, and of course around Delaware as well. Now, with that being said, I want to keep the ball rolling on some of the bigger things that we're talking about today. First of all, welcome on into the chat, you guys. I see some of you coming in saying like, wow, oh my gosh, seeing that this happened as more and more of you are pouring in. I've seen the numbers going up there. I want to remind you that we're streaming right now on TikTok. We're also on YouTube. We are also on Facebook, Instagram. If you see Fox 29 Philadelphia and it's got that verified check, that's us. You can join us. You can see some of the stuff that we're posting on our page, keeping you up to date with all the news that's happening right now around you. I want to give you a heads up. There are going to be a lot of different things that we talk about within this particular show. I'm streaming right now from 7 p.m. till 10 p.m. when Jeff and some of our other reporters will take over. Some of the topics that we'll be talking about in our span here, we'll be going over the White House. White House correspondent, White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, she's out. As you all know, she's actually pregnant. She's on maternity leave. And so she did not sit down and address the press, the journalists out there in the room today. Actually, Secretary of State Marco Rubio did. And yeah, it was a pretty crazy time in that room. I don't know that I've ever watched a press briefing that went as long as this one did. The Q&A portion itself was just about an hour long. We'll be diving into a little bit. Don't worry, I won't keep you guys here for an hour of just listening to a White House press briefing. But it actually was that interesting, so you probably wouldn't be mad if I played it for an hour straight. But I will be able to show you just a little bit of what he had to say, some of the questions, and it's going to be an unclipped version of that press briefing. So you'll know exactly what the context was with every question that he was given and just how he responded. And I want to put it out there that Marco Rubio was not scared of the press. Any question that they gave him, he was able to give an answer right back to. It was very quick, very succinct, and he kept the ball rolling. So I'm interested in seeing who's going to continue keeping that ball rolling. You're taking a look at him there. I'm interested in seeing who's going to keep that ball rolling, as Caroline Love is going to be out for quite some time, having her child and, of course, showering her child with all that love. It's going to be really interesting to see how they keep things going there. All right, in a little bit, I want to be able to give you a look at your weather forecast. But first and foremost, I mentioned it is a gorgeous day out in the city of Philadelphia. But just in case you are anywhere else, just a reminder, you can get free drinks, free food. There are a couple of different restaurants giving out some freebies and some specials. For example, no matter where you are, there's probably a Chipotle. Chipotle has free chips, queso, or guac. And then if you go to Taco Bell, some of y'all love Taco Bell, I know you do, don't pretend. They've got free Crunchwrap Supremes at Taco Bell today. I'll be going over some of the local businesses as well, so don't worry. We support local over here. I'll be talking about some of the deals and parties that they've got going on tonight as well. But getting back to our weather, it's a gorgeous day. What is it going to be like if you try to get out there a little later on to take advantage of those drink and food specials? Let's touch base with Kathy Orr, our meteorologist. Kathy, tell us something good.
Yeah, I mean, Judea, it's a nice evening. And remember, sunset's at 8 o'clock, and then twilight, civil twilight, goes about 20 minutes after that. So it's going to be light for a while around here, and temperatures are going to be mild. No rain expected, so expect really nice weather conditions through the evening. If you know anybody that went to the Phillies game, they picked a great night. First pitch slightly after 6 o'clock, so we're in the game, and it looks like a great night. It's a little bit windy. That southwesterly wind gusting to 25, 30 miles an hour, and you can see our camera shaking a bit. That favors the left-handed batters, and we have a lot of them on the Phillies team, so this is our prevailing summer wind. So tonight, it helps take those left-handed batters, the balls, over the right field fence. So hopefully we'll have a lot of home runs tonight in that. 80 degrees right now in Philadelphia, and elsewhere, temperatures still warm. 79 in Exton, in Doylestown, 78 in Allentown. Cooler down the shore with temperatures in the 60s. Ultimate Doppler showing a clear sky with some clouds to the north and west. Overnight low temperatures in the 60s, 50s down the shore. This is well above average, almost 15 degrees above normal for the city of Philadelphia. And tomorrow, yes, the clouds are back. The rain moves in late morning into the afternoon, keeps temperatures down in the 60s. But nevertheless, we still have that southerly wind component, so it's not going to be a cold rain. That's the good news. So for your Wednesday, yes, done deal. Slam dunk, we are going to have rain. Thursday, 50% chance of some spotty showers, not a lot of coverage of rainfall. And then another chance on Saturday, but Mother's Day looks dry. If you look at the probability of the rain, you can see that we peak on this graph to the probable edge late morning, early afternoon, and then those chances fall during Wednesday afternoon. This is the culprit. It's a cold front, not a lot of moisture with it, but an area of low pressure will travel along it, and that will enhance the rain, enhancing the rain north and west of the city, especially through the Lehigh Valley, the Poconos in northeastern Pennsylvania. So we only get about 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch of rain across most of the Delaware Valley, and as I mentioned, 1/3 of an inch or higher will be saved for those northern zones. So here's a look at what to expect. North and west of the city, Upper Bucks, Montgomery, Lehigh Valley, a few showers moving in the morning, the rest of us late morning into early afternoon, and then the rain tapers off. The chance of a spotty shower Thursday is mainly south and east of the area because another area of low pressure will form along the front, which will be stalled to us. Temperatures will be cool. Friday warmer, Saturday a spotty shower, but still near 70. And the real bonus here is Mother's Day, the high around 80 degrees, plenty of sun. The Phils also play, so a Mother's Day game at Citizens Bank Park is definitely a lot of fun and a good idea for mom. And by Monday, we see showers moving back into our weather picture, and temperatures begin to warm up Tuesday. You know I love that 10-day trend, and I always include it. Here's the 8 to 14-day outlook, and you can see the red, that's above average temperatures. That's for the southwest, the west, the central part of the country. We're in the blue, which shows that temperatures are more likely to be below average in that 8 to 14-day outlook. That goes beyond the 7-day. So we will stay on the cooler side. Average highs this time of year are around 70, so we'll stay cooler than that. But Judea, even if we're below average and averages 70. That means temperatures are in the 60s, and it's much better than a lot of the weather that we have endured through the spring season. So I don't think we'll get plenty of complaints. Yeah.
No, not at all. I mean, first of all, we were spoiled today. And so I'm not even upset at a little bit of rain tomorrow. It's like Mother Nature just, balancing herself out.
Absolutely. And you know what? I want to hear more later about all these Cinco de Mayo deals. I had no idea this was going on.
I got you, Kathy. You don't even know. Before I do that, though, just one question for you.
Sure.
Mother's Day is coming up. Have you heard there's actually a new trend where we're seeing mothers say that they want a silent Mother's Day, aka don't bother me, and that's how you can pay homage to me? Is that the kind of Mother's Day you would want?
Not at this point. I think when the kids were little, because they're pulling you in all different directions. Mine are teenagers, so they are still pulling me in all different directions, but in a different way. They're needy, but in a different way. So I can see how moms would ask for just a day of peace. I could totally see that. But then again, I mean, it's such a special day that, of course, the kids want to spend it with you. So you have to maybe just have a little quiet time, little me time.
The age where they really, really want to start cooking for you, are like, I want to make mommy breakfast, but they don't know how to cook just yet. That's a scary age, but I can see both sides as well. I don't know what I would want if I were in the position, but maybe one day I'll know.
You will. And I say half and half. Keep everybody happy.
Got you. All right, now you mentioned that you want those Cinco de Mayo deals. Oh, trust me, I got plenty in store for you. But first and foremost, I want to ask you all streaming out there with us, do you know what Cinco de Mayo is actually celebrating? Because it's not just a holiday to drink, even though a lot of you think it is. Cinco de Mayo commemorates the Mexican Army's victory over France at the Battle of Puebla back in 1862. So a lot of people mistake Cinco de Mayo with Independence Day for Mexicans. It's kind of like how we celebrate July 4th, but that is not the case. Mexican Independence Day is actually September 16th. So May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. Again, it's a celebration of Mexican culture. Again, celebrating that victory over France at the Battle of Puebla. And I want to also mention that Cinco de Mayo is a much bigger holiday here in the States than it is in Mexico. So there's a lot of different ways that a lot of people choose to celebrate, but let's be honest, a lot of us are doing it with a margarita, a lot of tequila, with some tacos. And I don't think restaurants and bars are upset with that. They got a lot of revenue on days like this. So again, I mentioned that Chipotle has some free guac, queso chips for you if you want to get out there. And then, of course, Taco Bell has that Crunchwrap Supreme if you want to go. But let's talk about some of the local restaurants because we want to celebrate and focus on local businesses. Here are some in Philly who are doing it big. El Teco has a party going from now until 11 p.m. You can go, there are dancers, there are 3 different DJs. You can order appetizers, tacos, paletas, which is a Mexican ice pop. There's a $15 cover charge, which isn't bad at all. If you want to have a good time out there with some friends or meet some new people. Again, it is, I didn't mention this before, but it's adults only, as you can imagine, 21 and up. This is a rooftop bar out in Rittenhouse, so a good option if that's something that you're looking for. And a rooftop doesn't sound bad after hearing Kathy's forecast there. And then Casa Mexico on 9th Street is also doing it big. They've got an award-winning chef out there, so you can imagine the food is probably going to be really good. And they're having a block party, so if you want to get out there, Philly is known for its block parties. If you want to get out there, that'll be super fun. There's food, lots of live music, and then there are a couple of other restaurants participating as well, because as I mentioned, it's a block party. There are so many more places that you can visit. Those are just 2 of them. I wanted to give you a little taste. You guys can definitely check out a couple of other ways to celebrate Cinco de Mayo, and let me know too if you are already somewhere or you've got an idea of like where the best drinks are. I know you guys have probably heard about those frozen margaritas. It's like that soft serve margarita. Yes, it's trending right now. I'm seeing nods in the building. I haven't tried it yet, but I really want to. So a day like this probably would have been perfect to go get one. But again, if you know the best food to get in Philadelphia, in New Jersey, and Delaware, please let me know in the live chat, because I got an appetite. All right, we are going to take a quick step back. When we come back, remember the Phillies are playing, and we're hoping that we're going to bring home a win. We'll check in with our sports team, see how our boys are doing in just a little bit. All right, welcome back to Philadelphia Live. You're taking a live look at Citizens Bank Park. We know our boys are having a good old ball game out there. So far, nobody has scored yet, though. I want to bring in Scott from our sports team to hopefully give us a better idea of what we can expect for this game tonight. Scott, I know that the Phillies were taking on the Athletics. What kind of team are we talking about here? Do we have a good chance?
Well, I mean, it's baseball. You never really know until you get out there in the game. It's interesting, though, because with everything going on with the Sixers and Flyers in the playoffs, the Phillies have just kind of been hanging out in the background without anybody really paying attention to them. And what they've done over the last week is they've won 6 out of their last 7 games, all under, their new interim manager, Don Mattingly. So they've been winning. They've been playing well. But they're playing a team that's in first place right now out in the AL West. And again, it's still early in the season. The A's are not a team that's usually at the top of the standings. But they're a young, gritty bunch, and they will certainly give the Phillies everything they have. But so far, as you said, Christopher Sanchez looks to be pitching pretty well early in that game. And, it's the beginning of a homestand here for the Phillies. First time they've been home since they went on this kind of a pretty good winning kind of feel so far. And it's a different feel than what they've had up until then so far in the season. Because you remember, they were 9-19 when Rob Thompson was fired. So they've definitely been making some good headway. They've been playing better baseball. And we'll see if they can keep that up here at home.
Okay, well, that's good to hear, but I need to ask you too, before the game started, usually they've got like a pre-game where they'll talk to the media about where their head is at. Did they have something like that today? And if so, what were they feeling going into everything?
Yeah, from what we understand, the clubhouse was pretty quiet, so a lot of the players were out on the field getting some work in and getting ready for tonight's game. But Don Mattingly did talk before the game, and he seems very calm. He seems very, comfortable and really trying to get these guys to play more fundamentally sound baseball. Errors were a problem. Base running mistakes were a problem before. They're trying to cut down on a lot of that stuff, make sure they do the little things that they need to do to win some games. But he seems pretty confident, pretty comfortable with this group. He really likes this team, says they're very talented. And he's still trying, I think, to get used to them as a manager while they're still trying to get used to the way that he manages these games. But I think they've definitely turned a corner. They are definitely winning more games, and I think they expect that feeling to try to continue. And their confidence does seem to be higher than it was before they went on the road.
Yeah, well, confidence is half the game right there. If you got that, got your head, on straight, you seem to be able to do a little bit better. And while we're talking about confidence and doing well, now I've got to turn the page to the Sixers. What in the world happened last night? What was that?
You know what I think that was a hangover. That was coming off of the Game 7 win over the Celtics, and I think they didn't get to New York until about 3 in the morning the day before the game, and then they had to get ready to play another series, and that's hard to do. I mean, every time you get further into the playoffs, you're playing another team that's as good or potentially even better than you. I mean, these are the best of the best, and I think what happened was the energy that it poured out, the emotional toll that it took on these guys to have won that game in Boston, which was a huge accomplishment. I think it made it really hard for them to get back up that quickly and be ready to play a game in a hostile territory there at Madison Square Garden last night. I expect a much more competitive game, potentially even a game that they could win in Game 2 when they play there tomorrow night. I think it's going to be a much better contest. I even saw Jalen Brunson, the guard for the Knicks who scored 35 points, said that the Sixers they saw in Game 1 are not going to be the Sixers they expect to see in Game 2, and I agree with them.
Well, I was going to say that's an optimistic take, but I mean, if he's already saying the same thing too, maybe everybody's just feeling the energy shift. No one likes losing, so no. I hope they come back and they play a little tougher. And, not for nothing, I'm going to talk to Breland about this, hopefully, but there was a moment in the game where a lot of fans thought it was a dirty moment, where we already know that Joel Embiid had been out. He had surgery. You could consider him injured, but playing through it, right? And then we saw that moment where, I don't know, but it kind of looks like something was done to hurt him, and it seemed like it worked. Has he said anything about that moment?
Yeah, he talked about it after the game. He was kind of shoved into his side where he had that appendectomy, about 3 weeks ago, and he bent over in pain. He was keeled over and was trying to, stay composed and figure out whether he could stay in the game. He was able to stay in the game, and that was obviously good for the Sixers. But he did talk about it afterwards, wondering if it was a bit of a dirty play, wondering if the Knicks were trying to send a message and maybe see if they could get him a little banged up and take advantage of that. But yeah, that was definitely something that they have to, that he's going to keep an eye on, and I think the Sixers are going to keep an eye on as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I hope it does come out that, it was just a misunderstanding, that that's not exactly what the Knicks were trying to do, because they're a team that they don't need to do that. So
Right.
hopefully it was just an accident and everything that happened there. Let's chit-chat just a little bit about Flyers, and I'll keep the ball rolling with the show. But we know tomorrow night, we hear that game will be in Philly now, right?
The Flyers, yes. The Flyers will be back home on Thursday.
Yes, I'm sorry,
here
not tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thursday.
Yep, Thursday night, Game 3 back here. The Flyers obviously need a win, definitely. After losing the last game in overtime, you got to wonder what kind of emotional toll that's going to take on them. But I think coming back home with the crowd energizing them, it should hopefully help them lift them into a much more competitive game. The guy to watch is Owen Tippett. He's missed the first 2 games. They definitely need him back. And the Flyers were hinting at the fact that he could be back in that Game 3 Thursday night. So keep an eye on that.
All right, we definitely will. One more time for the people, I want to give you guys a look at the score. Again, so far, no one has. Oh, shoot. Okay. Wait, Scott, they literally just scored. Bottom of the third.
Yeah, that helps, right? You get the Phillies that 1-0 lead. Like I said, Christopher Sanchez is probably right now their best pitcher. And so he's on the mound tonight. So I think if you're looking for a Phillies win, you just got to hope these guys give him some run support. And if they do, he should be able to help lead them to victory.
What we want to see. I'm glad that we end our little hit on that note. Scott, thank you so much.
Just wanted to point out, it was a Bryce Harper home run.
A Bryce Harper. Okay. Appreciate you. Yeah, we're doing it pretty good tonight. I mean, again, we're only in the third, but hopefully while it's anybody's game, hopefully it's ours at the end of all of this. Again, Scott, thank you so much for giving us a piece of this. You guys, we are going to take a step back. When we return, though, almost every time that I've been on this show with you guys for the past week and some change, I've been talking to you about redistricting, about gerrymandering, about redrawing maps as it pertains to voting. A lot of people are upset, but a lot of people say this is something that needs to be done because what's been happening, they say it hasn't been fair. Who's in the right, who's in the wrong? We'll be talking about that and more when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. But while I'm here in Philadelphia, you're taking a live look out in Tennessee, and that's because that is the latest state to join a growing list of southern states trying to redraw their congressional maps ahead of the November midterm elections. This is a very, very big deal. Again, we've been talking about this for probably the last week and some change, where we're hearing states like Florida, I believe we also heard Virginia, Louisiana, definitely. They had a big fight over there in Louisiana. A lot of these different states are deciding that how their state, their counties, their cities are broken up, and how that kind of reflects who lives there and which way they're voting, Democrat or Republican. They're saying that how it's been has not been fair, and they would like to, according to the census, reflect better the people who actually live in that area and how they are voting today, in today's age. But of course, there are also a lot of people on the other side of things. For example, a lot of Democrats, a lot of black Democrats who are saying that this is an outright issue, a concern as it pertains to the Voting Rights Act. We're going to hear all of that and more, but I want to get right out to Fox's Asher Red. He's joining us from Nashville, Tennessee. He has a better idea of what's happening out there because they had a special meeting called today. Asher?
Democrats here say they are ready to fight back as Tennessee Governor Bill Lee is targeting the state's lone Democratic seat in Memphis. Republicans are trying to pad their paper-thin majority over Democrats in the U.S. House of Representatives. Other states like Alabama and Louisiana are also taking similar steps that could give the GOP more power in Washington. Governor Lee called the special session after speaking with President Trump last week. The call came after last week's pivotal Supreme Court decision weakening part of the Voting Rights Act. The court's conservative justices ruled that race could not be used to dictate the drawing of legislative district maps. Hours later, Tennessee Senator Marsha Blackburn shared a photo of a map that would give Republicans all 9 of the state's congressional seats. That map would redraw Tennessee's District 9, which is a majority black district which includes Memphis. Blackburn, who is running for governor, wrote on X in part, quote, "I vowed to keep Tennessee a red state, and as governor, I'll do everything I can to make this map a reality." Of course, Democrats aren't very thrilled about this. Many of them protested the redistricting effort on the steps of the Tennessee Capitol building on Tuesday. The Tennessee Democratic Party is calling the GOP effort an attack on black representation, and they're vowing to defend the district. The chairwoman of the Tennessee Democratic Party says Memphis played a key role in passing the Voting Rights Act in 1965. 6 decades later, she says that district is still fighting for black representation.
This is just a racist power grab to target Memphis's majority black Democratic held congressional district by redrawing the maps. Memphis families marched and organized and sacrificed for that sliver that they let them have, right, to earn some representation and have some representation in the halls of power. That history should demand respect and not a map designed to erase it.
Governor Bill Lee says any changes to Tennessee's congressional map must happen as soon as possible since the state has a primary election coming up in August. In Nashville, Tennessee, Asher Red, Fox News.
And so, I mean, there you have it with Asher, Tennessee being one of the latest states to join this larger effort. And you're seeing both sides, different arguments that are being had there. As I mentioned before, the Voting Rights Act seems to come up a lot, especially as it pertains to Democrats, especially as it pertains to those black Democrats. I want to let you listen in. Some of those Tennessee lawmakers got together in their congressional session where they also discussed this redistricting. And when I tell you it got heated, oh, it got heated. Let's listen in.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to speak to my constituents who are sitting in the gallery watching today what we are doing by convening this special session. I'm not speaking to anybody in this body because by the simple fact that we showed up, it's clear to me this body is soulless. I invoke my ancestors when I stand here today. I am a direct descendant of slaves. And my bloodline comes from a bloodline of fighters and real patriots. I call on the ancestors of Elijah Bryant, my great, great, great uncle, who was a colored soldier in the Union Army during the Civil War. He fought at the Battle of Fort Smith in Fort Smith, Arkansas. Elijah Bryant, I call on him today. I call on my ancestor, Monroe Relford the Senior. Matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure none of you have been in my office, so you've never seen this photo. But I brought it with me today because it hangs in my office. Monroe Relford Senior is my grandfather, and he stands here. He was part of the last all-Negro class to graduate from Camp Robert Smalls, the U.S. Naval Training Center in Great Lakes, Illinois, 1945. A fighter, a patriot, who fought for this country, for my freedom to have the right to vote, when he could not vote. But he defended this country, Mr. Speaker, even when they disrespected him in uniform. I call on Robert Smalls, Civil War naval hero. I call on Roosevelt Williams, my other grandfather, who fought in World War II. And then I call on Isaac Relaford, my descendant, who was born in Tennessee. That's the bloodline I come from, that I stand here today. And then I call on Senator Thelma Harper, who many of you know as the first black woman senator from Nashville. And I call on Avon Williams Jr., who was the first black senator to serve in this seat. I honor his legacy because his legacy descends directly from the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that we stand here today to make a mockery of. So, Mr. Speaker, I speak with authority, and I speak on behalf of every constituent of Senate District 19 who sent me here to speak truth to power, but also to vote in a way that marks history, that I stand on the right side of history. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Oliver. Senator Lamar, let's not have any applause. Senator Lamar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. But I'm not thankful to be here. I never thought in my lifetime, as the youngest African American to ever serve in this body in the history of this state, that I'll be standing in a body surrounded by my colleagues who are going to erase the vote of my city and black people in Memphis. That is why we're here today, representing the blackest Senate district in the state of Tennessee. My constituents are angry right now because Memphis is the city with the largest number of African Americans in this country. And just 48 hours after this Supreme Court decision, you all decided that you're going to slice black voters in Memphis. Enough of beating around the bush. I need you to know this will be one of the most racist actions taken in the history of modern history of this legislature that you are participating in this week. Intentionally breaking state law to take my community's vote is downright disgusting and offensive. My grandmother, who's sitting watching me right now, still alive to this day, lived with a moment where she could not vote. And I remember the smile on her face when her grandbaby got elected and made history. And to think that she is watching all the sacrifices she and my ancestors made when they was killed, when they was lynched, when they was beaten to death right here in Tennessee by people who served in this body, do the most disgusting thing that you will ever do in modern history is a shame. And I know some of you sitting in this body actually don't agree with this. I know you don't. But this is an opportunity for you to have some courage. Show some courage. Y'all know this is wrong. You know it. You know it. You don't have to do it. None of this. And while we're going to do our job as legislators, I'm going to do my job as chairwoman. I'm calling on the soul of you to do the right thing. Let's not carve out Memphis because you can't fairly win in the ballot box or to favor one member in this body's path to Congress. Do the right thing. If you do this, this is racist in its intent, and there's no reason for us to cut through it. Let's call it what it is. Call it what it is. Show some courage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Lamar. Leader Ackberry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The other day in Memphis on a Friday, a reporter said to me, you know, I've been covering you for a while, and I've never heard you call something racist. I've never heard you use the issue, the word racism. You focused on other points to an argument. And that's because I've reserved it for an occasion where it truly matters and where it's true. And I have always felt that it was a privilege to serve in this body, first as a House member and now as a senator. While we don't agree on a lot of issues, a lot of them are partisan, I have always felt like it was a privilege. But at this moment, being called back to this building during this time to do what is being proposed to me is something that I cannot be proud of. I don't think any of us should be proud of. There's no way to sugarcoat eliminating a district that is 61% black and breaking it up into 3 different districts. You are deliberately trying to silence the voices of a community that is, you know, drawn in a way that expresses the intent of that community, that allows those people to pick a candidate of choice. And I'll just say this, it's time out for us in this legislature and for folks in this legislature for choosing the people that get to vote for them. It's supposed to be the other way around. So I've struggled with this. I've said, I've had to pray about it. I've had to pray, like, how can I even be kind to my colleagues? Because I want you all to know that whether or not, however you justify this, this is an act of hate, okay? When you take a black population in Memphis, and they are black by virtue of them being the demographics of the city. It has nothing to do with them being a Democrat or Republican. Memphis is a 64% black city. And when you sit in these chairs and you sign onto legislation, you present it and you vote for it that will deliberately dilute that voice, you need to remember what you're doing. You cannot call it anything but racism, okay? I was born after the civil rights movement. I have often wondered what I would do when that moment arose. If I had to face a situation like Representative Johnny Turner, who served with many of you all, who had to count the bubbles in a bar of soap so that she could vote. I think about someone like my grandmother, who was my proudest constituent before she passed, who was born in 1934 and did not get the right to vote till 1962. I think about people like my father, who is an immigrant, who was not able to vote until 2002, who has voted proudly since then, right? I think about the Memphians like Barbara Cooper, who went to the March on Washington, who heard Dr. King's last speech. I think about Lois DeBerry. Today is her birthday. Today is also Election Day. How ironic that we are taking part in dismantling democracy on this day. I think about Senator Thelma Harper, who lied in state on this day several years ago. Do not go back home and feel good about this decision, because what you're doing is deliberately hurting a segment of the population of Tennesseans that you all are supposed to represent. If you look out into the gallery, if you look out into the hallway, you will see the bust of Samson Keeble. That bus is significant because he represents the African American men that were elected to serve in this body after slavery during Reconstruction. And we all know what happened when Reconstruction ended. We saw an era of absolute terrorism, from Jim Crow to the Ku Klux Klan. We saw black bodies being hung and barbecued. We saw people rising up and going to people's homes and burning down their businesses, burning down their homes. We saw their rights being taken away. It was not until the 60s that another black person was allowed to serve in this body. And now you have 3 black women in this body. I cannot let this moment pass. We cannot let this moment pass and not show you a reflection of what you're doing. You cannot sugarcoat this. You cannot say, well, we just want one more Republican seat. Because that district is not Democratic because it's a collection of Democrats. It's because you have a collection of black people who are selecting the candidate that they choose based on the very serious needs they have, like education, like our hospitals, like our transit, where they are able to get funding very specific to that area. So you may think you're doing this to Memphis. You may think that it's only going to hurt black people, but it's going to stretch all across West Tennessee when you have rural and urban districts combined where everyone's power is diluted. I'm going to wrap up now, but I just want you all to know the magnitude of this. So please don't come up to us and joke and laugh and smile and all of these things, because that's not what we're here for. We don't even want to be here. Our constituents don't want to be here. We're going to be polite. We're going to be cordial. But this is a line in the sand. If you don't care about our rights at this very basic level, do not expect for us to extend any sort of courtesy to you beyond what is required by the rules of this body. Now, I have been here for 13 sessions. I have never felt this way in my life, okay? But I am not playing, and neither are we. You all may win this battle. You may win this war, but history will not look back kindly on you when you had an opportunity to do what was right and you chose to do something else.
Excuse me, Leader Ackberry, please allow her to finish, and we don't have any applause, booing, waving of signs, any of that. Senator, Leader Ackberry.
I just want to let you all know he asks her if she had anything else that she wanted to finish up saying. She said she finished her remarks and then she went ahead and sat down. So as I mentioned, it got really real, really personal there as well, and very passionate. So you heard from a couple of those Democrats out in Tennessee. Of course, Republicans are speaking up as well. I'm seeing you guys also speak up in our live stream chat, and I want to encourage that. Please keep it going. We've got user, waiter 512. And there was another person who was going really hard as well, Mike B. Thank you guys so much for contributing to the conversation and being able to chat with each other as well. This is what I want to encourage as the live stream goes on. If you guys are really passionate about a topic too, go ahead and talk about it amongst each other. And also, if you've got a question that I can ask any one of our reporters on a specific story, please feel free to do that as well. This helps me determine what you guys are interested in, what you want to see more of on this live stream chat. We're going to keep things going. When we come back, I want to talk to you about what's trending. So this really is what you guys are clicking on, what you guys are watching. And of course, we'll even go over one of our big questions tonight that has to do with Spirit Airlines. Do you guys think we need another one of them, or maybe even Spirit to come back? We'll talk about it more when we come back. right, welcome back to Philadelphia Live. You're taking a live look at some of our biggest airports here in the U.S. You're seeing some flights take off as well. Some flights that definitely aren't taking off right now, Spirit Airlines. So we know about 16 to 17,000 employees at Spirit Airlines are now in flux because their airline has called it quits. It was May 2nd that happened. Of course, now we're on May 5th, and a lot of people are still trying to figure out, what am I going to do to pay my bills? But I wanted to ask the people, everybody knows, Spirit Airlines tickets, they were cheap.
Yeah.
It was really easy to get a flight from point A to point B. If you don't really care about all the bells and whistles, it did exactly what you needed for it to do to get you where you needed to go. Do you think that we need Spirit Airlines back? I wanted to ask the people, and you guys actually have already started responding. And we asked the question as well on some of our other social media platforms. So Jake Leonard brought him up to the desk.
Hello.
Jake, how are the people responding?
Yeah, so first of all, we did a poll, fox29.com/go vote under the Fox Local tab as usual. And so we just asked, how do you feel about the Spirit Airlines shutdown? So we had a couple options. And it looks like there's a three-way tie right now. Wow. So option one, good riddance, not missed. And then we have, I'm upset. Now it's going to cost more money to fly. And then we have stress, need to rebook, because as you said, a lot of people are scrambling. And then leave a comment. We've been getting some comments so far, but I'm actually shocked that it's a perfect three-way tie right now. I was watching the numbers leading up to it. It was kind of, one was in the lead and then it was going down. So it's changing again as we're speaking. But yeah, people definitely have a lot of thoughts. So looking on our social media, because as always, you can find this posted on our Instagram stories, on our X, on our Facebook. So we have a couple of responses. So this person brought up the Atlantic City Airport, which I thought was really interesting because a lot of people have been talking about it. Obviously, the Atlantic City Airport's a little bit smaller than PHL, for example, so it doesn't have as many flights. So this person said, until Breeze starts flying daily, multiple times a day, especially in the morning, Atlantic City's airport is going to feel like a ghost town, which I feel like that's very interesting because I have been hearing a lot of talk about how this is going to affect Atlantic City Airport specifically. So that's definitely something to think about.
I've been hearing that as well. And then, of course, some airports in Florida are also going to feel the burn. Because I want to say, and I hope I'm not getting this wrong, that Spirit was headquartered in a certain part of Florida. So I was hearing that there were quite a few employees who had taken on some corporate housing in the area. And now those places are going to be empty.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of people have lost their jobs. I mentioned it was somewhere between 16 to 17,000 people now without a position, very big there. In addition to the comment that you saw as well, someone commented on my Instagram and they said, they actually put it quite plainly, no, we don't need another airline like this. These airlines are worthless and so catastrophic. Thank God that they're out. So we're seeing people really, really feel passionately about this.
People have strong thoughts on either side. But what you were saying, a lot of people are thinking about this whole shutdown, and it's like, how is it going to affect me flying? What a lot of people aren't thinking about are all the people that are laid off and now have to find a job. I was seeing posts on TikTok and other social media about Spirit employees finding out, as the rest of the world was finding out, that it was officially shut down.
Yeah, and actually to your point, there are a lot of GoFundMes right now.
Yes.
I'm not going to shout any particular one out because I haven't been able to vet which ones are real and which ones are just people scamming for money.
Yes.
But there are quite a few GoFundMes set up from former Spirit Airline employees saying, hey, I did not see this coming.
Right.
And, you know, it's not like when the government shuts down where they're not receiving a paycheck, but when it all comes back together, maybe they'll get a lump sum. This isn't that.
No.
They're just without.
They're just out of a job.
Trying to figure out what's next. So yeah, there's a lot to think about and mull over here. So
Definitely.
let the people know where they can go if they want to vote and put in, their 2 cents on what's going on here.
So the poll itself, we're running it on fox29.com/go vote under the Fox Local tab. But if you want, yes, there we go. If you want to weigh in, you have a comment, you can find this on our Facebook, on our X. It's posted on our Instagram story. You can also swipe up and leave a comment directly on Instagram. So there's a lot of places where you can get your voice.
Yeah, and we definitely encourage y'all to do that because we may be able to shout you out live right here on Philadelphia Live.
Yes.
We're going to bring Jake up every hour. We'll check out how this poll is going and what you guys are thinking. Jake, thank you so much for giving us this insight right now. You guys, we're going to keep the ball rolling. We got some really serious news and breaking update to bring you all as well. Our Shawnette Wilson is going to be able to bring that to us. But just as you may remember, in 2025, there was that mass shooting on the campus of Lincoln University right around their homecoming experience. We'll be talking about how we've heard that there are some new suspects in that case and what new information we may have gotten in the last couple of hours. Again, that's going to be Shawnette Wilson bringing that to you live when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live, you guys. Got some big news coming up for you, but before we go ahead and get there, I just wanted to touch base with that last question that we asked you all about Spirit Airlines. I'm seeing comments starting to come in about that as well in our live stream chat. Nessie Pooh says, hey, this happens every day. You just look for a new job. And, I guess that is true. Sometimes you just got to dust yourself up, pick yourself back up, and find something else. But I do understand that that is a very, very difficult and sometimes long process. But getting back to that breaking update that we've got in a mass shooting from 2025, this all happening on Lincoln University's campus right around their homecoming celebrations. I want to turn things over to Shawnette Wilson, who has been learning more, listening in on press conferences, getting information about new suspects in this case and charges being filed. Shawnette, what do you have for us?
Yeah, so Judea, investigators have been working on this, as you mentioned, since October 25th when this happened. And today, the district attorney of Chester County had a press conference to announce new suspects arrested, new charges, hoping that this will bring some closure to this case. So they did provide us with some mug shots to show you, and I'm actually going to read from my phone for just a second to get the names right here. So police are telling us that these new arrests and charges you'll see pictured include 20-year-old William Sells, 17-year-old Karan Rollins, and 19-year-old Machiavelli Valera. All of them are from Wilmington, Delaware. All of them are charged with second-degree murder, robbery, and conspiracy. So investigators are saying that they just randomly decided that they were going to go and crash homecoming at Lincoln University, which again, as we mentioned, was October 25th of last year. Simply, investigators say, because they knew that it would be a large gathering. There would be a lot of people there, and they thought that they could get away with it. The motive here, investigators say that these three young men wanted to rob people of jewelry, including some chains and expensive necklaces, which we have some pictures of the evidence that investigators were able to gather. And they're telling us that they have determined that, these chains, these necklaces were worth on average $100 each. And, these three men decided that this was worth taking lives. So we do know, again, that one person was killed. That victim is Juwan Jeffers, and then 6 other people were hurt. Let's listen to what the DA said during the press conference, and we will talk more on the other side.
There's a bevy of text messages, photos, and videos that we were able to use to piece together this simple truth, right? That this group came to crash the party. They showed up to commit robberies. They killed someone in the process, and now we start that process of holding them accountable. I hope that the beginning of this legal process brings peace to the family of Juwan Jeffers. It brings justice to the 5 other gunshot victims, and it helps restore that sense of security that the students at Lincoln University lost.
All right, and interesting notes from the investigation, Judea. He talked about how, they used surveillance video from on the scene. So, witnesses turned in, cell phone video. There were other cameras around campus that they were able to use. And then also, they were able to get a search warrant to look through social media accounts, get access to DMs, so, private messages that ultimately would link these 3 men together and help police identify them. Wilmington Police assisting in this along with several other agencies. So again, this was not apparently a well thought out plan, right? Randomly deciding to do this and just, a disregard for life. And the DA also mentioned, when you're committing violent crimes like this, most criminals aren't thinking about, the different things that will go into play here. And they don't care about crossing state lines. These 3 guys are from Wilmington, and they went, as he put it, to crash homecoming to rob people, which ultimately caused one person to lose their life. Juwan Jeffers was shot in the head. Investigators say that video and witnesses say that he was confronted by these 3 suspects, and so something happened there where he ended up getting shot in the head. Now, back in October, when this happened, we initially have reported that investigators say there was another person who was arrested on the scene, and that person ultimately was arrested for carrying a concealed weapon, and it wasn't a registered weapon. They have since charged him with 6 counts of aggravated assault for his role in this. They don't, however, believe that that person is connected to the trio. He may have just gotten in on the action that was happening there. So that's where this stands. At the end of the day here, as you heard the DA say, he is hoping that this will bring some sort of closure to the family of Juwan Jeffers, who lost his life, and then also to all these students, faculty, staff, visitors who, will converge on homecoming, because that's a celebratory moment for the university, and had to endure all this chaos and ultimately some bloodshed.
Shawnette, I feel for the family in all of this, because while, yes, partially they've gotten some sort of closure, understanding of, okay, these people who the officials say did this to my child are now facing actual charges. This is great. But at the same token, I imagine that they are probably having to go through the grieving process all over again, because now they've gotten these charges in, and potentially will maybe have to go to court again. I mean, it's just a lot on that family. So my thoughts go out to them. Yeah. But I also have to comment, this is a really full report. You actually answered all of the questions that I would have had for you. Everyone.
Can you repeat today? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was letting you know that you actually answered all of the questions that I would have had for you. Oh. That's how complete of a report that you just gave. Yeah. I know you're going to be in the 10 o'clock. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was saying that, I apologize. I gave all the information, but it's just so interesting and fascinating, to hear the details of investigations. And we do this, so we hear it a lot. But sometimes to get even more detail about search warrants for social media, for even DMs, people don't understand that, very few people will get away with things like this. There are a lot more resources available today to law enforcement to try to crack cases, for lack of a better word. But as you mentioned, there's a family who has lost a loved one, and what does closure really mean? But, the thinking here is that this is a major break in the case. They had only had one person in custody, and turns out, that person isn't charged with murder. So, these 3 new arrests are a major break in the case, for this family. But yes, we will recap and, have more at 10 o'clock.
Absolutely. And, don't apologize for giving us all the information. This is exactly what we were looking for. So I appreciate you joining us here on Philadelphia Live. Again, able to give us that update on that Lincoln University shooting. There have been a lot of people that are just trying to see what was going to happen with that, hoping that the police did not forget. And clearly they didn't. It's always been on their mind. Again, that was Shawnette Wilson reporting for us live, giving you guys more information again on that mass shooting on the Lincoln University's campus out in 2025. As she mentioned, 3 more people facing charges. And she went over what those were. Again, if you missed any part of that, like maybe you just came into our live stream chat, you guys will be able to see her again at 10 o'clock with a whole lot more. We're going to take a quick step back now, but when we come back, we were just talking about Spirit Airlines, whether or not you guys think that they should, come back. Do we need low prices once again? We're going to talk to Amalia Roy from Fox News about how we are seeing prices just go up and up and up, and why we think this is happening. Yes, it's about the fuel, but it's something more than that. We'll touch base with Amalia when we get back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. Again, we're keeping the spirit of Spirit, up for us as we are continuing to remember that while that was a low-cost airline, we are seeing others' prices skyrocket. Now, it's not just because we lost an airline like Spirit. I'm hearing that it also has to do with the conflict with Iran and the cost of oil, fuel, all of that being driven up, and now you may be seeing it in your ticket prices. I want to turn things over to Amalia Roy live for us from Phoenix at the Sky Harbor Airport. Prices are going up there too as well. Amalia, what are you learning?
Good evening. Prices are going up everywhere across the country. Now, looking at Kayak, which compiled all of the data, looking at these prices, comparing at around this time last year to now, we could see that the prices were trending upwards from the beginning of 2026, but in many cases when I was going state by state, I noticed that there were these upward trajectories. But Spirit Airlines, they also cited jet fuel as a big reason. They'd been struggling for years before they shut down a few days ago, but it was the sudden and sustained rise in fuel prices that gave the final blow. And now with Spirit out of the game, experts say there might be less pressure on major carriers to keep their prices lower.
Budget airlines like Spirit, there are others, but like Spirit, tend to put pricing pressure on the bigger airlines, and they compete. They, I think in markets where you have a strong budget airline presence, you tend to see, lower fares on average. You've now removed a layer of that competition. We still have Frontier, we still have Allegiant in select markets.
Now, as the war in Iran broke out, airlines started passing higher operating costs on to travelers. And check this out. From the end of April 2025 to the end of this April, domestic flights into Atlanta are up by an average of $35. They're up $78 into Washington, D.C., $89 into Dallas and Chicago, and $75 if you're heading to Orlando. Tickets to Phoenix are up $80 from last year, and people flying into Sky Harbor today said they found good deals because they booked their flights months ago.
A flight for me can range anywhere between $500 to $1,100. And that is a lot of money to take out of if you're using a business expense or your own personal pocketbook. $1,100 makes it very easy to say, no, I can't come. And when business can't be done or you can't attend those things that are once in a lifetime.
We are coming here for our wedding this week to Arizona, and then we actually leave from Arizona to go to Greece. So we had to book a lot of travel well in advance. So we planned this trip probably about 6 months ago and got all our airfare taken care of. So that was definitely helpful on the cost end.
It's not just ticket prices either. Also, they're hiking up baggage fees with a lot of these airlines. I spoke with Sean Cudahy from the Points Guy, who recommended looking at summer travel to look towards August instead of earlier in the summer for better deals. It can be a bit rough when you're looking at school calendars. And then sometimes it is just getting onto your computer and looking at tickets on a good algorithm day. Back to you.
Amali, first of all, thank you for the tips. And I have to say, even though the biggest one really is book in advance, there are type B personalities like me, and it's just not going to work. And so I wonder if, when you were talking to these experts, especially Sean, are there any other tips that he gave you that were really, they shocked you, or maybe you didn't know about that you would want to share? Or was the really big one just booking in advance?
I am so sorry. As a fellow type B girly, it really is, the earlier you book, the more likely you are to be able to get a better price on things. It is also looking at certain times of the year. I went to Chicago in February. You can imagine the price of that ticket was way nicer than if I had tried to go in June or July, when the sun's out and it's shining. So that's my personal advice there. But I think the good algorithm day was something that shocked me because I used to hear about specific days. Okay, if you book on this day during the week, you might have a better time. But this really is leaving it up to the algorithm. You might just log on a day where ticket prices are lower. I've definitely had that happen, and I knew I had to jump. Some people would say to wait, and looking now, and I'm happy that I followed my instincts.
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard of apps like, I think one is called Hopper, like Price Hopper or something like that, that will tell you if you should wait or not. But it all gives me anxiety. So sometimes I just have to bite the bullet. And lately I have been taking a lot of flights since I just moved. So we're, I guess, all just figuring it out together and hoping that the airlines don't start jacking up prices too much now that Spirit is gone. But only time will tell, right?
No, definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Amalia. Again, she was joining us live all the way out in Phoenix, Phoenix, Arizona. So I appreciated her time with us here in Philadelphia. We are going to keep the ball rolling again on more things going on. I mentioned that at the White House, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, took over the White House press briefing in Caroline Leavitt's place. Of course, she is the White House press briefing secretary, but she's on maternity leave. So how did he do? We'll take a look when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live, bringing you right out live to the White House, where earlier today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio filled in for Caroline Leavitt. She's White House press secretary. Normally, she handles all of the journalists who come into the room wanting to know more and more about what's going on with this war with Iran. Have we finished it? Is the ceasefire deal still good? What's going on with the Strait of Hormuz? They ask questions rapid fire, and instead of Caroline Leavitt, Marco Rubio was the one taking them. So again, we know that earlier today, there's something called Project Freedom. That is where the president, Pete Hegseth, they say that the United States has started firing back and forth again with Iran, even though we've got the ceasefire deal, right? So what is the ceasefire part of the deal? I mean, they talk about it and so much more because, of course, the media wanted to know more. Let's listen in to how Marco Rubio handled the press briefing, just the beginning of it. When we come back, we'll talk to you about the Q&A.
Desperate and destructive, this blockade of the Straits of Hormuz. Nations from around the world, the overwhelming majority of whom are not even engaged in any military hostilities, are now at risk not just of losing their cargo, but the lives of their own citizens because of this blockade. These ships, you don't leave a ship out there for this long. You start running out of food, you start running out of potable water, essential supplies, and they're at the mercy of this piracy. What it is, it's piracy. And not only that, but some of them have seen, been open fire on and rained down senseless attacks on several civilian ships already. So frankly, the way to put it, these are innocent bystanders. These are countries that, and ships and so forth that have nothing to do with any of this and nonetheless are being caught in the middle of it and being held hostage merely because Iran could do that, just as the regime brutally slaughtered tens of thousands of their own citizens for the crime of peaceful protest, because they're unhappy with the quality of life or the lack of quality of life in Iran today. And so they're sitting ducks. They're isolated, they're starving, they're vulnerable, and at least 10 sailors have already died as a result of the civilian sailors. So already many nations privately and some publicly have asked the United States to help free their ships and to restore freedom of navigation in the Straits of Hormuz and this critical artery of global trade. And so President Trump, as he always does, stepped up and answered the calls for their help. And he's directed the United States military to guide these stranded ships to safety, to provide a protective bubble under which they can operate and move product and get themselves out of there and out of harm's way. And this is the first step towards reopening the strait and bringing this regime's last-ditch act of economic arson, bringing that to a close. We're doing it not only because we were asked, but because we're the only ones who can. Only we have the power to sort of take the steps that we've taken now. Under this president, under President Trump, the United States will help our friends. We're going to stand up to rogue regimes like the one in Tehran, and we're going to be unashamed to use our power and our abilities to project military power in the service of our national interest above all else. Now, what's really important for you to report and for everyone to understand is this is not an offensive operation. This is a defensive operation. And what that means is very simple. There's no shooting unless we're shot at first. Okay? We're not attacking them. But if they're attacking us or they're attacking a ship, you need to respond to that. You're not going to let some fast boat come up on the ship and shoot it up. We're going to respond to it, and we've been successful at it. I don't know what the exact number is, but I know a number of those fast boats have now been targeted, and will continue to be if they pose a threat to our forces. We'll shoot down drones, we'll shoot down missiles, but it's defensive in nature. This is defensive. So if you hear stories about attacks and launching of firing back and forth, it's not back and forth. We are only responding if attacked first. This is a defensive operation, and that's what's occurring here. Just about the importance of the Straits for a moment. This is approximately a quarter of the world's oil trade, along with significant volumes of fuel and fertilizer that operate through the Straits of Hormuz. The Iranian regime cannot be allowed to dictate who uses this vital waterway. I don't think this is also being reported enough. Maybe you are reporting. I don't read everyone. I don't know many damn outlets here. I don't know who you all are, but I mean, I know who some of you are, but I don't know all of you are. But I will say this about it. This is an international waterway. Okay, this is an international waterway. And international law is very clear, and I love it because everybody always talks about international law on this. International law on this is very clear. International waterways, no country can control them. There is no international law that allows you to say, I'm going to put mines in an international body of water and I'm going to blow up ships that don't listen to us and try to go through. That's what Iran is doing. This is a criminal act. And someone needs to do something about it. Something needs to be done. It's completely illegal, completely illegitimate, and completely unacceptable. And that's why the United States military is guiding stranded commercial ships safely through the strait and is working to restore freedom of navigation and putting an end to these efforts to hold the global economy hostage. So far, as a proof of concept and as a proof of function, 2 U.S. flag merchant ships have successfully transferred the Strait of Hormuz in the first stages of this project, and they're now safely on their way. The U.S. military is deploying the necessary assets to extend this defensive umbrella over commercial shipping. But there should be no mistake. And as I said this already, this is a defensive operation. I want to reiterate that point. This is important to understand. If no shots are fired at these ships and no shots are fired at us, we're not firing shots. But if we're fired on, we will respond, and we will respond with lethal efficiency. The assets supporting this project, by the way, include guided missile destroyers, over 100 land and sea-based aircraft, multi-domain unmanned platforms, and 15,000 of the finest military service members on the planet. These forces have already destroyed, as I told you earlier, I thought it was 6, it's 7 Iranian fast boats that failed to heed our warnings. And by fast boats, we're talking about, some of these things look like Boston whalers. Okay, so these are not like Navy ships. But nonetheless, they come fast at these boats, try to swarm them, try to harm them. We're not going to let that happen. So 7 of them now sit at the bottom of the sea, along with, by the way, the rest of Iran's Navy. That's where you can find their Navy today. And we're going to continue to systematically clear this passageway through the straits to restore freedom of navigation. Now, while this project steadily progresses, Operation Economic Fury, continues to impose maximum pressure on the Iranian regime and what remains of their already frail economy. Today, inflation in Iran is 70%, and their currency is in total and complete freefall. U.S. sanctions enforcement is stepping up. It's moving in lockstep with the naval blockade to degrade Iran's capacity to generate, to move, and repatriate revenue. It directly targets the regime's primary revenue lifelines. The blockade alone is costing Iran as much as $500 million a day in lost revenue. 90% of total Iranian trade has been halted, causing permanent damage to Iran's oil infrastructure as wells are forced to shut in. Again, all of this is in response to their piracy. Okay, it cannot be that you have these straits and they blow up any ship that moves, and the only ships that get to go through are theirs. You can't have a situation in which the straits are closed to everyone else, but they benefit from the piracy. That can't happen. That's why the blockade is in place, and that's why these sanctions are crippling them. Any foreign financial, and by the way, Treasury is now identifying and cutting off every dollar of revenue that's flowing to this regime. And so, look, any foreign financial institution or commercial actor that enables Iran's sanctions evasion is going to face secondary sanctions exposure and a loss of access to the U.S. financial system. As President Trump has said, and the facts clearly bear out, the United States of America holds all the cards. There is no scenario here in which if they decide to join a ladder of escalation, they wind up getting the last say. But our preference is for these straits to be opened to the way they're supposed to be opened, back to the way it was. Anyone can use it, no mines in the water, nobody paying tolls. That's what we have to get back to, and that's the goal here. Every day the conflict continues, however, our leverage on Iran will continue to increase, and their position will continue to weaken, especially as the blockade really begins to bite in conjunction with the sanctions. So, look, the time's come for Iran to make a sensible choice. And it's not easy for them to do that, obviously, because they have a fracture in their own leadership system. And apart from that, I mean, the top people in that government are, to say the least, they're insane. It's important for them to make a sensible choice and the one that's right for their people. The president, our president, has proven time and again that his preference is peace. But Iran must accept the reality of this situation and come to the negotiation table and accept terms that are good for them but ultimately good for the world. The diplomatic path, if there's a real diplomatic path, I'm not always going to be one, but if there's a real diplomatic path and we continue to explore it, Steve and Jared are working on that very hard. If there is one there, it could be one that leads them to reconstruction, to prosperity, and to stability, and to not posing a threat to the world. The alternative is growing isolation, economic collapse, and ultimately total defeat. I know what the right choice is for Iran. I hope that the people over there making decisions will make the right one. The last point I would make, and it really is important for them to understand this, is they really shouldn't test the will of the United States, at least not under President Donald Trump. He has proven time and again that he will back up what he says. And if they test him, ultimately they will lose. The hard way, the easy way, the long way, the short way, they will lose. And with that, it's time for your questions.
Oh, and when that time comes, it's coming up soon. Don't worry, we're going to play you the full, well, just about, we'll see how much time we have, but we'll play you the question and answer section, because just the first part of the briefing, that's only part of the job. And honestly, it's probably the easiest part of the job. You go through the notes that you have, you go over the talking points that you wanted to make, just like Caroline Levitt would before every press briefing. But then the media gets to ask you questions, and they can be difficult. We'll see how that went when we come back. All right, welcome back to Philadelphia Live. Again, we're going right back out live to the White House, where again, we know that earlier today, Secretary of State Marco Rubio took over the White House press briefing, and it was very interesting. So first part of it, we got where he goes over his notes, what he wants you guys to know as it pertains to the Iran war, and of course, the ceasefire deal, is it still good? What's going on with Strait of Hormuz? All of that, right? But now we know that there are a couple of dozen journalists in a room with him. They've got questions about all different types of topics, and he's there hopefully to answer all of them, right? So for about 30 plus minutes straight, like, it is rapid fire. Hey, answer this. Hey, what's going on here? They don't let up, but neither does he. I want to let you know how he carried himself and how he stood up for himself. Let's listen in.
It's time for your questions. So, Catherine, why don't we start with you first?
Hi, Catherine Herridge. I'm an independent journalist. Secretary Rubio, have you seen any recent indications that Iran is willing to give up its nuclear weapons program that is credible, verifiable, and that would lead to an immediate de-escalation?
Well, look, this is a long-standing problem for them, right? I mean, they have wanted, they have always said they don't want a nuclear weapon. That's because they've always said that, they just don't mean it. And why do you say, well, how do you know they don't mean it? Well, we don't mean it because they're doing all the things, and historically have tried to do all the things that you do if you want a nuclear weapons program. For example, they innovate and try to innovate long-range delivery missiles that now, in some cases, are capable of reaching much of Europe. They build these large underground centrifuges for enrichment activity. There are countries in the world that are involved in the enrichment business, but these guys do it in mountains and in caves and in hiding. They've always had secret components of their nuclear program undisclosed to the world. And we know for a fact that they retain highly enriched uranium at 60%, that they did so. And that has no civilian use, none, zero whatsoever. So they have an opportunity here to agree to something that will make it clear that they're not interested in one thing is to say we don't want a nuclear weapon. Another thing is to do the things that prove you don't want a nuclear weapon. By the way, if what Iran wants is a civilian nuclear program for power plants and stuff like that, there are a lot of countries in the world that have that, and they don't enrich. They import the enriched material. You know, they could have that if that's what they wanted, but they're not acting like that's what they wanted. They're acting like they want a military, nuclear program. That's unacceptable. So that's the process we're engaged in now. To create, that's the object of this diplomacy, is to come up with some level of understanding about what are the topics that they've agreed to negotiate on. We don't have to have the actual agreement written out, and one day this is highly complex and highly technical. But we have to have a diplomatic solution that is very clear about the topics that they are willing to negotiate on and the extent and the concessions they're willing to make at the front end in order to make those talks worthwhile. That's what Stephen Jarrett and the whole team is working on, and I hope to have good news on it. That's the outcome we would prefer. That's the outcome we would have preferred a year ago. That's the outcome I think most of us would have preferred a long time ago. But that's not the option they've given us, given their activity. All right, there's no way I can figure out who to call on. I'm just going to press right in the middle, right there, you right there, yeah. Right in the back row.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'll go to you next. I can't get everything, you know that. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Secretary Rubio. Keep going right. Welcome to the White House.
What's that?
Talking to me, sir?
Yeah, to you, yes, sir.
Thank you. I have two questions on two separate issues that come
under... Do they get two questions for these?
Two questions.
There's a lot of people in here.
That fall under your umbrella.
All right, well, you can ask me two questions. I'll give you one answer. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
And I'll pick the one I like better.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The first has to do with the blockade. There are lawmakers from both parties who claim the blockade is an act of war. What do you say to that? And my second question has to do with the fuel embargo of Cuba. How long, Mr. Secretary, will that last?
Okay, two things. All right, good. I'll answer both your questions because I like the second one too. The first one on the blockade. And so why do we have a blockade? We have a blockade because they shut down the straits. So I don't know which members of Congress you're talking to, but here's what I would ask them. I would ask everybody here. It's very simple. These guys have shut down the Straits of Hormuz. This is what Iran is saying. We will shut down the straits. No one can go through. No country in the world can go through unless we allow you to go through, and you have to pay us. But our ships can go through, meaning the Iranian ships, as much as they want. That's crazy. Who would agree to that? So how are we going to have a situation where they get to close the straits to everybody, and the only people who are allowed to go through there 100% without paying anything are the Iranians? If you do that, they'll keep the straits closed forever. They're trying to make this some new normal. Okay, under no circumstances can we ever allow them to normalize the fact that they get to blow up commercial ships and put mines in the water. So the response to that is we're going to blockade your ships. If everyone's ships are not getting out, your ships are not getting out either. That's not an act of war. That's a defensive measure. It's a counter to what they have decided to do. You know what is an act of war? Putting mines in the water. Why don't the members of Congress, whoever it is complaining about it, they should be all over that. These guys put mines in the water. That alone, mining in the water is illegal, period, under any circumstances, and they've done it. But this is crazy stuff, but this is what they've done. On Cuba, oil blockade on Cuba. There's no oil blockade on Cuba per se. Here's what's happening with Cuba, okay? Cuba used to get free oil from Venezuela. Used to give them a bunch of free oil. They would take like 60% of that oil and resell it for cash. It wouldn't even go to benefit the people. So the only blockade that's happened is the the Venezuelans have decided we're not giving you free oil anymore. And you can only imagine nowadays, the way oil prices are, no one's giving away free oil, much less to a failed regime. So the problem with Cuba is worse, okay? Their economic model doesn't work. And the people who are in charge can't fix it. And the reason that I can't fix it is not just because they're communists, that's bad enough, but they're incompetent communists. The only thing worse than a communist is an incompetent one. And that's what, so incompetent communists run that country. They don't know how to fix it. They really don't. And we have 90 miles from our shores a failed state that also happens to be friendly territory for some of our adversaries. So it's an unacceptable status quo, and we'll be addressing it, but not today. Okay. All right, let's go to the front, right there.
Secretary Rubio.
Yeah.
You are going to the Vatican to meet with the Pope. Is this an attempt to smooth things over with the Pope, given the rhetoric between President Trump and Pope Leo?
No, I mean, it's a trip we had planned from before, and obviously we had some stuff that happened. And no, look, there's a lot to talk about with the Vatican. I'll give you one example. The Pope just returned from a trip to Africa, where the church is growing very vibrantly. And we have shared concerns about religious freedom, freedom in different parts of the world. We'd love to talk to them about that. The topic of Cuba, we gave Cuba $6 million of humanitarian aid, but obviously they won't let us distribute it. We distributed it through the church. We'd like to do more. We're willing to give more humanitarian aid to Cuba, by the way, distributed through the church, but the Cuban regime has to allow us to do it. They won't allow us to give their own people more humanitarian aid, and we're willing to do it through the church. So there's a lot to talk about.
And the president recently said that the Pope is endangering a lot of Catholics as a result of his rhetoric around the Iran war. Is that a sentiment?
Well, I don't think that's an accurate description of what he said. I think what the president basically said is that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon because they would use it against places that have a lot of Catholics and Christians and others for that matter. It goes back to the central point. I think the president, without trying to speak for him, but I think I can characterize it this way. He doesn't understand why anybody, leave aside the Pope, the president, and I, for that matter, I think most people, I cannot understand why anyone would think that it's a good idea for Iran to ever have a nuclear weapon. Look what they're doing with the Straits right now. They're holding the whole world hostage. They have these sailors, on commercial ships that are going to starve to death out there. They don't care. They don't care that this is melting down the economies around the world, even of their own allies. This is what they're doing with the Straits. What do you think they would do if they had a nuclear weapon? They would hold the world hostage with that nuclear weapon. That's what they would do. They would do exactly to the world with a nuclear weapon what they're doing now with the Straits. And I think the president's point is how anyone cannot see that as an unacceptable outcome and an unacceptable risk is beyond him. It's puzzling. And someone has to do something about it. The difference between this president and like the 6 presidents that preceded him were that he's the only one that's actually been willing to do something about it. Everyone says Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, but you got to do something about it at some point. And he's been willing to address that threat. And that's what he promised he would do when he got elected, by the way, is address threats like this. I wish I knew your names, guys. I apologize. Can you put name tags on?
Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary.
Who are you with?
I'm with Rudao Media Network.
Okay.
Mr. Secretary, the President has said multiple times that weapons were provided to the Kurdish groups to pass on the Iranian people. However, Kurdish political parties and the regional government says they have not received such weapons. Even some claim these weapons remain in the U.S. base in the region. Can you clarify who those weapons were given to and whether you intend to retrieve them or still want to pass to the Iranian people?
Yeah, look, ultimately, what the president is expressing, and I think has repeatedly, is he wished the Iranian people had, look, he's heartbroken by these images. You think about it, you're an Iranian, okay? You're unhappy that your economy doesn't work for you. You don't have freedom. You don't have an opportunity to express yourself. You've got friends that have been shot in the head because they're out protesting. And it's heartbreaking to him to see that these people are abused in this way and have no measures to take against their own government as a result of it. By the way, this goes back, if you guys remember the protests in 2009 where they slaughtered people in the street. This is a vicious regime, guys. Okay? These are people that hang people from cranes in the town square so everyone can see. They continue these executions of people and have continue to do so for over a decade and a half now. And so I think what the president is expressing is the desire that he wishes the Iranian people had an ability to fight back against some of these things that are happening to them. And I would view that as distinct and separate from the specifics of this operation that was ongoing before it concluded, and certainly different from the operation that's going on now. Right there in the, right there in the blue.
Regarding Colombia, Mr. Secretary.
Right behind you, not Colombia, right there. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Secretary, thank you so much. On Lebanon, are
Yes.
we in a ceasefire or less fire? And the second question, do you think you would be able to achieve an agreement between Lebanon and Israel without risking a civil war in Lebanon? What are you doing to risk? What are you doing to?
No, I got it. I got the gist of the question. So look, here's the challenge with Lebanon, okay? There's no problem between the Lebanese government and the Israeli government. Israel doesn't claim any land in Lebanon belongs to them. And by and large, I think a peace deal between Lebanon and Israel is imminently achievable and should be. The problem with Israel and Lebanon is not Israel or Lebanon, it's Hezbollah. Hezbollah operates from inside of Lebanese territory. They terrorize and attack Israelis, but they also are inflicting tremendous damage on the Lebanese people. The reason why Lebanon gets attacked by Israel is because of Hezbollah, because Hezbollah is hiding in some house, launching rockets against Israelis, and then they get hit. So what you're seeing now is Israeli responses to either attacks or perceived threats. And this is not new. This has been going on for a very long time. What is our hope? Our hope is to engage the Lebanese and Israeli governments under our mediation at the table to achieve this. And that is having Lebanese armed forces and a Lebanese government, not just with a willingness, but with the capability to begin to challenge Hezbollah and disarm them. Because the Lebanese people are also victims of Hezbollah. And by the way, on the topic of Hezbollah in Lebanon, who is behind Hezbollah? Why do they exist? They're an agent of Iran. If you go through that Middle East and you identify every problem, Hamas, Hezbollah, to some extent the Houthis, obviously, and others, behind every one of these groups is Tehran. So apart from the nuclear weapons, apart from all these other things, these guys are behind all the bad actors. Hezbollah is a wing. It's an extension of Iranian desire to destabilize the region. So we're very committed to this process. It's not going to be easy. You're asking me a complex question. You know this has been going on for a very long time. It's not going to be easy. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that both sides continue to talk so that progress can be made on some sort of permanent ceasefire that isn't constantly spoiled by Hezbollah and by Hezbollah violence. Right in the middle, right there. I'm winging it, guys, okay? Right there, yes, sir.
You mentioned the 2 U.S. ships that safely crossed the Strait of Hormuz. Are other ships being told it's safer to get back to regular levels, or are we still going to see limits in place for the foreseeable future?
For obvious reasons, I'm not going to broadcast who we're talking to or who we're telling them to move. I mean, we want these operations to be safe, and I think as it unfolds and ships get through, we'll make those announcements after the fact, just for operational security purposes. But the goal here is pretty simple. Establish a zone of transit that is protected by a bubble, the United States, both naval and air assets, and then allow ships who want to move through there and get to market, to begin to increase confidence in the ability to do so. That doesn't happen in 12 hours. It takes time to set up that bubble and gain that confidence, but that's the goal. We have been in touch. We've been in touch, I don't know, with a bunch of different liners about moving, and we're hoping to continue to improve the security situation, and we'll start to see some of that movement, and we'll announce it as it happens after the fact. We're not going to be like broadcasting, hey, tomorrow at 12, ship X is going to be coming through, for obvious reasons, because that degrades the security. But we feel confident we're going to be able to achieve that. Look, it's not going to solve the whole Straits problem. It's going to solve a lot of it, but it's important to challenge what Iran is doing now. Guys, again, I wonder if you take anything away today, and I can't tell you what to write, but Iran cannot be allowed to normalize this control of the Straits. It's completely unlawful, illegal. It's outrageous. And every country in the world should be joining us and condemning it and doing something about it. But the United States has stepped up and is trying to do something about it.
Regarding Colombia, Mr. Secretary, we've had several tourists.
I'm sorry. We'll see if we get to Colombia today. Go ahead. You guys have an election now. Why don't you wait till after your election?
Mr. Secretary, Tom Michael Ross with Daily Mail. I was curious about your meeting with Southcom earlier. There was a picture, a map of Cuba behind you. What did you discuss with Southcom about Cuba? And do you have any updates on?
I'm not going to tell you what I discussed with Southcom.
but it had to do something with Cuba.
No,
what about?
Cuba's in Southcom. It's the
enough.
closest part. And so the second point, I was there. Our ambassadors were in from the whole Western Hemisphere. I was addressing them. Meeting the general who just took command of Southcom. And there happened to be a map of Cuba. And I said, it'd be good if we took a picture in front of that map, because it's like the closest thing in Southcom to the United States. So there it is. We have maps of other countries, huh?
What about Greenland? Any update on Greenland?
No, they didn't have that map then. They only had in the red, right there in the red.
In the red, okay. Christina
de Telemundo, Mr. Sec. Can I ask you in Spanish or can I ask
Yeah,
you
you can answer in Spanish. You can ask me.
gracias.
And they'll have to translate for them what you ask
So
them.
I'll say it in English, and if you can answer in both languages. Today I checked the webpage of the State Department, and there's still a $25 million bounty on Diosdado Cabello, the Secretary of Interior, for drug trafficking and narco-terrorism. I was wondering if that has been put on hold, or if you're negotiating with President Delcy Rodriguez to turn him over.
Yeah, I don't have any updates for you on that. The website is what it is, and that's where it stands. That policy hasn't changed. But guys, I mean, let's be mature here a little bit. I'm not going to tell you about what we're talking about with the leader of these countries.
El Departamento de Estado sigue considerando a Diosdado Cabello un narcoterrorista y un narcotraficante, como dice en la página del Departamento de Estado.
La política de Estados Unidos en ese tema no ha cambiado, y cuando cambie te dejaremos saber. The politics of the United States on that, the policy of the United States on that topic hasn't changed. When it does, you know, well, obviously we'll inform you, but I don't have any news for you on that today. Right there in the green. I'll get to you. Are you guys all the TV people?
No.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go. I'm learning. They gave me a little map. I don't know where I put it of the people here. Some of you had like red X's. I'm kidding. No, it's not true. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The average price of gas in the country right now is $4.50. Do you have a thought on how long Americans are supposed to kind of accept this? Do you think it will affect Republicans' majorities in the midterms?
Well, I'm not going to speculate on the politics of it. You can tell me. I mean, look, it's obviously being driven by global events. That was true during the Russia-Ukraine war as well, where you saw that come up. It's one. Look, we don't benefit from the straits as much as other countries. I don't know if you've seen what the gas prices are like in other parts of the world that are really suffering big time. So we're very fortunate that the United States, I believe right now, is like the world's largest net exporter of oil and natural gas as a result, not because of this war, but because we have this capacity. So we've been insulated to some degree. We're obviously still vulnerable to some extent to global prices, and so, but in the end, I mean, we're more insulated than other countries, even though that's not welcome news to Americans that are paying more at the pump, no doubt about it. And it certainly is one of the circumstances of it. There are people that were predicting would be much higher at this point, but we're not taking that for granted. Suffice it to say that this is, think about it this way. Everybody needs to think about it this way. If Iran had a nuclear weapon and they decided to close the straits and make our gas prices like $9 a gallon or $8 a gallon, we wouldn't be able to do anything about it because they have a nuclear weapon. And a nuclear-armed Iran could do whatever the hell they want with the straits, and there's nothing anyone would be able to do about it. And that's one of the many reasons, apart from like the massive loss of life in a nuclear strike, why Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. I mean, so this is an example of, if they had a nuclear weapon, they closed the straits and they would tell the world, what are you going to do about it? We have a nuclear weapon, we can attack you with it. That's the world none of us want to leave behind. It won't happen under this president's watch, but some future president and future, you know, and the future Americans will have to deal with this. So just one more example of why these guys can never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Right there, in the black. Right, you in the black, yes ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Where you, no, right there, you both are wearing black. She's closer. No, you don't have black, you have blue on. I'm colorblind, but I know blue and black. Right there, yes ma'am. No, you, the first one I called on.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. This is chaos, guys. Go ahead.
Welcome to the White House.
You've long been a leading voice on human rights in China, and so including religious persecution and forced organ harvesting. So President Trump prepares to meet Xi Jinping next week. Do you expect human rights concerns to be on the table? Or
well, we always raise those issues, and they remain true. And I think we've proven in some cases it's most effective to raise them in the appropriate setting. But we always raise those issues. They're important to us, among with others, of course. But those issues remain prominent in our view and in our conversation about these things. And we'll continue to raise them in the appropriate forums. All right, let's get to the front. These guys are going to get mad. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Segment Kendi, Associated Press. You mentioned earlier that some countries have privately and publicly indicated their willingness to help with Project Freedom. Can you say how many have reached out to the U.S. with the offers of help, and what kind of capabilities?
Well, I mean, thank you for your question. That's a good question. I mean, multiple countries have said we got to do something about it and fix it.
Is it like dozens or single digits or more than 100? Or?
I don't know. I don't put a number on it. I would just tell you that here's what I would say about it. The capabilities is the issue. Okay, a lot of countries would love to do something about it. They don't have a navy, right? Or they can't get there in time, or they can't. Others, you know, are less. You know, that some unfortunately do have a navy are saying, oh, we'll be involved, but we'll be involved after it's over. Well, after it's over, it's kind of like, you know. That makes sense. So, you know, we'd like to have it. Now, there may be some utility in a post, you know, closure mission. I'm not downplaying that, but I think that's been the challenge. But there are other ways they can help, unique ways that they can help. And I don't want to get into who these countries are for obvious reasons, because they are prepared to help us in certain ways, but maybe don't want that publicly disclosed for no other reason than it impact their foreign policy. It could have some domestic ramifications. But ultimately, I don't want to mislead you. The primary responsibility for this Project Freedom is on the United States, because we're the only country that can project power in that part of the world the way we're doing now. We're the only ones that can do it, and we're going to do it as a favor to the world. Understand this. This is a favor to the world because it's their ships that are stranded. It's their fuel supplies that are stranded. By the way, it's their there's humanitarian aid destined for different countries in the world that's stranded in the Persian Gulf right now. It's the fertilizer that they need for their food and crops that's stranded in the Persian, not our fertilizer, their fertilizer. So we want to be helpful, and that's why the president stepped forward, because we're the only ones that can. Frankly, we're the only ones that can.
Mr. Secretary, on the rising oil and gas prices, the president has said that this is a small price to pay for getting rid of a nuclear weapon. But 10 weeks in, are we any closer to getting rid of Iran's nuclear material?
Yeah, but look, here's the way to think about Iran, and this is what I described at the very beginning of this. What was Iran's plan? You have to understand what their plan was. Their plan was they were going to build this conventional shield where they would have so many thousands of missiles and drones and rockets that they couldn't be attacked. And behind that conventional shield that they were trying to build, they would then break out and do whatever they wanted with their nuclear program. They no longer have that conventional shield. Okay, we told you guys from the very beginning, and we're very consistent in this messaging. The operation that has concluded was going to destroy their Navy. They have no Navy left. They don't. Not a Navy. They have small boats and Boston whalers, but they don't have a Navy left. They don't have an Air Force. I challenge you. When is the last time you read or heard about an Iranian jet flying anywhere? They don't have an Air Force. Their missile launching capability has been substantially degraded, and their industrial base, their defense industrial base, has been severely, severely damaged. So their ability to build a shield behind which they could hide their nuclear program was wiped out. That's a very substantial achievement, and that was the purpose of this operation from day one.
Their nuclear material in order for this war to end.
Well, that's one of the topics that needs to be discussed. I don't know about. I think you're linking it. The operation is over. Epic Fury, as the president notified Congress, we're done with that stage of it. Okay, we're now on to this Project of Freedom. As far as a negotiation is concerned, I think the president's been clear that part of the negotiation process has to be not just the enrichment, but what happens to this material that's buried deep somewhere that they still have access to if they ever wanted to dig it out. That has to be addressed, and that's being addressed in the negotiation. I'm not going to go further on what progress has been made on that topic because I don't want to endanger the negotiations, but suffice it to say that the president and this entire team is aware of the centrality of that question, and that will have to be addressed one way or the other. Right there. Right there. Yes. Thank you.
Secretary, I have another two-part question for you.
Okay.
First, are you taking part in those negotiations that you just detailed there? And then secondly, President Trump has made it clear that the U.S. doesn't rely on the Strait of Hormuz. So why should Americans even care about Project Freedom and these shipping tankers going through?
Well, I think on the second point is the one I want to address first, and that is why should Americans care and why it matters to us? Because ultimately these things have an impact on the global economy, which ultimately has an impact on our economy in the long term. That's number one. Number two, because if we live in a world where a rogue state like this Iranian regime is allowed to claim as a new normal control of our international shipping lane, it will not be long before you see that happen in multiple shipping lanes around the world. I can identify for you six or seven vital shipping lanes around the world that some countries can decide, guess what, if Iran was able to do it, we're going to do it too. We're not going to start charging tolls. And it'll get closer and closer to us. That's unacceptable. We cannot live in a world. There's a lot of time and energy been invested behind the idea that international waters are free for the free flow of goods. The stuff we make in this country and export has to go through international shipping lanes. And for us to live in a world where a country can decide now we own the international shipping lane and you have to pay us if you want to use it, that is a normal that we will never be able to accept. And that's what the Iranians are trying to get us to do. So we're doing two things about it, and we haven't talked about the second one enough. The second thing we're doing is we're going to the UN. Everybody loves the UN, right? We're trying to go to the UN, and we're saying, okay, countries of the world, condemn this. Say that it is wrong for you to put mines there. It is wrong for you to shoot at commercial vessels. Guys, that's what we're talking about here. These guys are bombing commercial vessels. They're not bombing naval vessels. They're bombing commercial tankers. It's just outrageous. That needs to stop, and it needs to end. And if it doesn't, then the world should be diplomatically and economically isolating Iran as well. But if we live in a world where global shipping lanes can be taken over by countries, that'll have a direct impact on Americans in the short and the long term, and we can't let it start by Iran doing it. And we're the only ones that can do anything about it. All right.
All right, so we're going to put a pin in it there. He does continue with a couple of more questions from the press, but I want to know, how do you think Secretary of State Marco Rubio is doing up there? And would you like to see him conduct more of these White House press briefings? Because as I mentioned, Caroline Leavitt, she is on maternity leave. She will be gone for quite some time taking care of her brand new baby. And we hear that they could be filtering out different speakers, different hosts of this particular briefing as the weeks go on. So while we have Marco Rubio today, they do say it's possible that we could see Vice President J.D. Vance or maybe even President Donald Trump hosting this press briefing himself. So what do you think? Did you like him doing this? Did you think that he, held his own? Or do you think that the media ate him alive? I mean, weigh in our live stream chat. I want to keep things going. Remember that you are streaming with us here on Philadelphia Live. So I'm live right now from Philly. We've got a shot of Citizens Bank Park where the Phillies are taking on the A's. And hey, it is 6-0. We are winning. This is the bottom of the eighth. I mean, they're not coming back from that. Oh, let's just be honest. And as you can see at the bottom right hand of our screen, you're taking a live look at a podium where soon, after that game ends, after the guys get on out there, we're hoping to hear from interim manager Don Mattingly giving us insight on how this game went. Of course, like I said, I'm expecting that we're coming out with the win, so it should be an exciting one. We'll have live shots on that and more content for you. Don't worry, we've even got some more national news for you when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray. You are streaming us live right now from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We go over news from just about anywhere, though. And of course, this coming weekend is going to be a beautiful one. I heard from our meteorologist that Mother's Day is supposed to be in like the 80s, which is perfect if you want to take her out. Now, we here at Fox 29 Philadelphia are shining a light on some of the amazing moms out there. And Dawn Timoney, one of our reporters, actually got to meet one of those amazing moms. Dawn, tell us a little bit more about this lucky lady.
Well, first of all, today we had a contest where we asked people to email us, write in about an amazing mom in their life, husband, daughter, friend, sister, or whatever. And we've got so many emails. It was crazy. So we had a difficult time, but we chose a couple amazing moms. And so today we went to Northeast Philadelphia to a chiropractic business. It's a family-run business, and we surprised the mom. She's the office manager. She runs the ship. She had no idea. She was starting to think things were seeming a little weird or funny because we were outside with her husband and her daughters trying to come in and surprise her. So here's how it all unfolded. I'm Dawn Timoney from Fox 29, and your family nominated you as an amazing mom.
No. Oh my God, this skippity.
Blame Haley. So we're having a contest, and we had people write in and say why they thought the mom in their life was amazing. Husbands, daughters, family members, and your daughter, Haley, wrote in. Your whole family's been in on this. And so we're doing a little story on you.
Oh my God, I was wondering why everybody was here. Thank you. I'm never speechless. I'm never, ever speechless. They'll all tell you.
Why did you nominate your mom?
I just feel like she does a lot for everybody, and it's not often that she expects something in return, so I just felt like she really deserved it.
When you think of your mom, what do you think of?
A lot. She's motivating, she's driven, she has the biggest caring personality that I know, and with her big personality comes her really big heart, and I think that's an important part to see about her.
She deserves it the most. Out of any mom I know, she's the one that she's so deserving of it. She does everything for everyone, doesn't miss a beat. She's just amazing.
So the winner of the contest, one of the moms, her name is Deneen McCaffrey. And Jade, in addition to being like an awesome mom, an awesome grandmom, running this family-run chiropractic business, she also has two nonprofits that she started. I don't know when this woman sleeps. One is in honor of her niece. It's called Morgan's Light. Her niece was 18 years old when she says she was sadly killed by an ex-boyfriend. And so she and her sister-in-law, Kathy, Morgan's mom, travel around to schools and talk to young people about teenage domestic violence. They say it's a topic that a lot of young people never talked about. They don't know the red flags. They don't know the warning signs. They don't know where to get support. So she does that. And then she and her husband, Frank, also started a nonprofit called, I think it was Helping Hands in the Northeast. And they feed families at Thanksgiving. They started 18 years ago with 13 families. Now they feed 600 families at Thanksgiving. They also do Christmas and just help the community basically whenever they need support. So we did give her a gift card to Hand and Stone Massage, courtesy of Hand and Stone, and she said she's definitely going to get a facial or a massage. I said, you need to stop and enjoy this. But a pretty amazing woman, an amazing mom, an amazing grandmom, and we were glad we could recognize her tonight.
That is so beautiful. And I was laughing to myself when you walked up to her and she said that she's never lost for words, but clearly when you put the mic in her face, it's like the words weren't coming out fast enough. But I love competitions like this and how you were able to go talk to her, because I think, especially women, but just people in general, we do these cool, incredible things. We're helping out other people, and I think not enough times do we stop and think about how life-changing or just awesome, amazing what it is that we are doing is and what effect it has on other people. So getting to have someone else like her daughter and even you come up to her and tell her, hey, let's take a second and love on you as you've been loving on everybody else. I think that is so special. We all need it.
Absolutely. And of course she's like, oh, I'm not deserving. I'm like, yes, you are, which I feel like is sometimes like a woman thing. I mean, she does it all. And she's like, oh, there's so many amazing moms out there, you know. But I said, you are deserving of this. And I love that her family really appreciates her, because sometimes you do it all and, you know, nobody even takes notice. And she does it because she wants to and she loves it. And that's just her personality. But it was nice. She was really, really touched. She was crying, and I think it really made her night.
Oh my gosh, I guarantee that you did. And one other thing that I wanted to touch base on, you mentioned that nonprofit that she has, the first one that you mentioned, and that really resonated with me. I share this story no matter where I'm at, but when I was in high school, my sister's best friend was actually killed by a boyfriend, so it was another domestic situation. And as you mentioned while you were talking to her, it's one of those things where when you're young, and maybe you don't ask all the questions about dating. Well, how am I even supposed to know that I should ask about someone attacking me or someone taking my life? But to have an organization like the one that she has, and they do that hard work, I think is really, really important, because once again, it's just one of those things where you don't think about it until it's done or until it's too late. So I hate that, the situation happened with her, but.
Yeah, it's super sad. So it was her goddaughter, her niece, and so her sister-in-law and herself, they go to these schools, and it was her sister-in-law's only child too, which is super heartbreaking. And she said she wished that someone had talked to her daughter about a situation like this, like she and Deneen are now doing. And Deneen was also saying that a lot of times, like, young people, like teenagers, when they think of domestic violence, they think of like married couples or older people. They don't realize that it can happen to them. And so they try to teach these teens about healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships. What is a toxic relationship, and how to find support and help, and how to end it, and how to feel empowered and worthy of who you are. So I love that she and her sister-in-law are doing this, and pretty incredible lady, and making a difference for sure in her family, in her community, in the world.
I love to hear it, love to see it. Clearly she is an amazing mom, just like her daughter said. So again, I'm glad that you were able to get out there, and I think we'll probably be seeing a little bit more of this and learn more about her during the 10, right?
Absolutely. And I'll have another amazing mom for you tomorrow night.
Ooh, okay, you have been a busy lady. Thank you so much for bringing us a little pinch of good news. I think our audience needs it in the midst of some of the topics that we talk about. Appreciate it. All right, you guys, like, that was really special. While we have that good news out there, I want to also let you know that we're keeping a pulse on some of our big national stories. So, for example, a lot of you have probably heard about this cruise ship that had been out just floating about or near the coast of West Africa. And what I'm hearing about this situation is that they're saying that on that cruise, about 4 people ended up getting sick with something that they call hantavirus. And the name sounds very close to coronavirus, but I want to make sure that we all understand here that it is a very, very big difference. And this isn't just coming from me. This is coming from health officials who are confirming that what we are seeing here on that cruise ship is not what we were seeing happen exactly with the coronavirus. So let's get on into it. The Spanish Health Ministry told us today, they confirmed that everybody who's on that cruise ship hopefully will be getting home soon, because they're going to step in. They say that they're going to send people out and bring that ship back to Canary Islands, and then they'll examine and treat all of the passengers that are on this particular cruise line. So there are 150 passengers and then a number of crew members that have been waiting for days for someone to help them in this way, and now it's going to happen out there in Spain. But so what they're saying is that a couple of earlier last month, I'm trying to get my timeline straight. I think April 1st is when that cruise, I believe, took off. And then around April 11th, I think, is when they figured out that they had their first illness and their first death. And then the ship reached the St. Helena area April 22nd with the first victim on board. And so now we are on May 5th, and just hearing now that Spain will be stepping in to make sure that the people on this cruise line are taken care of. So a lot of news organizations, as you can imagine, have been reaching out to passengers. even we have. We knew somebody who was on one of these, or on this ship. They said that they were just not in a place right now mentally to be able to discuss all the different things that are happening. But if you can think about the fact that you have been on a cruise for about a month, and that wasn't necessarily your original plan, and people are getting sick and you're hearing that someone has died, it is probably very nerve-wracking. So again, a big situation out there. Now, I did mention that even though we're hearing that people are getting sick and that someone has died, this is very different from coronavirus. So they're saying that hantavirus is something that happens when you inhale like basically the illness out of rodent excrements. So it could be poop, it could be pee, it could be spit, saliva. It's not supposed to be something that can be transmitted among people. However, of course, hearing that multiple people have gotten sick, somebody has died, they do say that they are going to investigate this medical crisis, just trying to make sure whether or not it's possible that people can pass it to one another. But they say if all goes to plan, they're able to seek help and medical attention for all of the passengers on board, and that everybody's cleared, then everyone should be able to go home soon. So you're probably going to be hearing a lot more about this situation if you haven't already. Again, this is a cruise ship that has been out at sea for quite some time amid a deadly outbreak, and that's the information that we have there on that. Also want to make sure you guys are up to speed. Apparently, the presidential fitness challenge is back, according to President Donald Trump. Now, this is something that I did when I was in school, so I actually wasn't aware that it went away, but apparently during President Barack Obama's term, he phased it out. And he said that he wanted a program that would focus more on long-term health rather than competition. So as you all may remember, I think the presidential fitness challenge and test actually involved crunches. You had to do a certain amount of crunches. You had to do pull-ups. At my school, you had to climb a rope and come back down. I'm trying to think what else. There was a stretching portion. I can't remember, the V-sit or something like that. A stretching portion. You had to reach your hands all the way to the front. And that was testing flexibility. And then I think there was also like this really, I can't remember what it was called, but it was like a really fast run that you had to do. In my school, you had to like run and pick up the beanbag and then come back and then drop it and then go back and pick it up again and go back. They timed you. And through all of this, if you were really physically fit, you would get an award. And sometimes that award came with a letter from the president, the seating president of the United States, and he would actually sign it. My brother's gotten one. I have not. Why? Because I couldn't do the stretch and sit, the V-sit thing. I was not a flexible child. But anyway, earlier today, President Donald Trump held a signing ceremony, and he also invited a whole bunch of kids in as he announced that this physical fitness test would be back on an annual basis. And right now I hear that it's coming back as a 1 mile run, the sit-ups, as I mentioned to you. They're looking for kids who score above the 85th percentile for their gender. Times and what they're thinking about the milestones, they're different per gender as they pertain to the kid. And those kids would be able to get an award again. So it's pretty cool of a situation, I think. I mean, let me know what you guys think. But again, earlier today, they invited students to the White House where they made this announcement. I want to let you listen into just a pinch. The president's going to talk, and then you're going to hear from Pete Hegseth.
Celebrate America's athletic traditions and champions in physical fitness and all of those things that I work so hard at on a personal basis. I work out so much, like about 1 minute a day max, if I'm lucky.
Fitness standards, competition, that's what we're all about at the War Department. So bringing those things to education is something I remember as a kid. I mean, the Presidential Physical Fitness Award was the pinnacle event at Forest Lake Elementary School every year, and I wanted to be the best. And I wasn't, but I worked my tail off every year to try to get there. Pull-ups, push-ups. I couldn't do the V-sit and reach. I could never beat that one. But I remember it because it was something my country clearly elevated as important. We should be in shape. We should compete. And there's winners and there's losers. That we need to infuse into our young people. And obviously it takes young people to run a military. And as the Secretary pointed out, almost 3/4 of American young people do not qualify for military service. And a lot of that has to do with their physical fitness. So we're proud at the War Department to put this first into Department of War education activity. Our schools, 161 of them, across 30 installations. It's going to be mandatory for the young kids of those service members who use those schools. And we hope that's a pilot for all of American education. We hope the rest of America follows. We need young, strong, healthy Americans, whether you serve in the military or any other aspect of your life. And I think this presidential fitness test, Mr. President, is a perfect thing to restore that sets those standards high for young people and something for them to achieve. The idea that competition is bad is the beginning of decline of a nation. Competition is critical to who we are and ensuring America stays on top. And speaking of staying on top, Mr. President, we are, as we talked about this morning, Project Freedom is ongoing. We're ensuring that we have control of that strait, which we do. And ultimately, Iran has a choice to make, and they know we're in the strong position. We hope they make a wise choice, and nobody better to make that deal, Mr. President, than you. Thank you.
All right, so as I mentioned, and as you heard from Pete Hegseth once again, this is mandatory now at 161 schools across our country, but these are U.S. military installations, so the students who attend those types of schools. But Pete Hegseth says he's hoping that this serves as a pilot and that other schools around the nation, just regular public schools, private schools, that they hopefully decide to join and follow suit. So again, that's what's going on across the nation. We've got a lot more news to take you out to. I do want to remind you that we are keeping our eyes on the Phillies game versus the A's, and we know that in just a little bit when that game does end, which by the way, it was 9-0, but as I brought this up, the Athletics actually scored 1 point. They scored 1 point, but we're in the top of the 9th. We don't have that much time left in this game. Hoping we can wrap it on up, and then we're expecting to hear from the interim manager, Don Mattingly, who will talk to us a little bit more about what the team put into this game tonight. We got a lot more coming up for you, including our weather report when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. You're taking a live look at Independence Mall. It is such a pretty night, and I've got some great news for you guys as I bring in our meteorologist, Kathy Orr. I heard that the Phillies did officially win. Of course, we all knew it was going to happen. 9-1, not bad at all. And they played in some pretty spectacular weather, Kathy.
They sure did. The boys of summer had the perfect weather tonight, Judea. I mean, a landslide victory for sure, 9-1. And as we look ahead through the rest of the evening, as the fans head back to the cars and head home, it's just very comfortable. It was a windy night. Those southwest winds continue to blow through Philadelphia at about 20 to 25 miles an hour. It is still 73 degrees at Citizens Bank Park. It's 75 in Doylestown, 60s down the shore and in the Poconos. Look at these winds still gusting at 25 miles an hour out of the south in Philadelphia, and down the shore those winds gusting over 30 miles an hour, slowly subsiding overnight. Some clouds moving through right now, southwesterly winds in the wake, and some clearing skies. Overnight lows in the 60s, the average low around 51 for the city, and clouds for tomorrow and showers moving in. Occasional showers expected, highs in the upper 60s to around 70 degrees. Rain chances quite high for Wednesday, Thursday, just a chance of some scattered showers, especially south and east of the city. And of course, Saturday, just a chance of a shower. Mother's Day looking dry. As we time the rain, you can look at our graph here where the scattered showers are more probable around the noon hour, and then in the afternoon, that probability kind of just tails off. This is the reason why we'll see the rain. It's a cold front, not a lot of moisture associated with it, but an area of low pressure riding along it will enhance the moisture, bring some heavier rain to the north and west of the Philadelphia area. So how much rain? Well, the farther north and west you get, the higher accumulations we shall see. And that's about 1/3 of an inch, especially in Lehigh Valley in the Poconos. So as we go through the day tomorrow, we will see some showers moving in from the west. A few showers west in the morning, more like late morning into early afternoon for the Philadelphia area, with some scattered showers, and then the rain tapers in the evening. Another area of low pressure rides along that front early Thursday. It stays to the south, but that's enough to keep it damp and cloudy, and a chance of a shower, especially South Jersey and Delaware for your Thursday. 60s for Thursday and Friday. Saturday, just a chance of a shower, around 70. Mother's Day is the gem. Right in time for mom, mostly sunny. Right now, looks like the rain will hold off until Sunday night or Monday with our next weather system. The high 82 Mother's Day, 65 Monday. In Judea, mix of sun and clouds next Tuesday with a high of 66. Average highs for this time of year around 70, so below average expected right through next week. However, if below average is 60s, it's still in what I call the comfort zone.
Love to see it. I mean, seeing that there's rain expected Saturday, rain expected am I backwards? Rain expected Monday, thank you. And none at all on Sunday feels like the perfect gift to mom.
Look at that, it's right in between, a chance of a shower Saturday and Monday. So that's the sweet spot. We just want to keep it that way.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to keep our eyes on the skies. You guys, if you want to see more with Kathy, of course, we'll have more weather available for you in the 10 o'clock news. Kathy, I appreciate you staying with us here on Philadelphia Live, keeping us up to date with everything that's going on. Now, I mentioned to you all that the Phillies game did just end, and of course we did come out on top 9-1 against the A's. This is just game 1 of 3 in a much bigger series, and we're hoping that that's just going to continue as the games go ahead. We also know that we are on podium watch. I was going to say stadium watch. We're on podium watch. Any minute now, Don Mattingly, the interim manager, is expected to sit down, start talking to the press, answer questions about what's been going on. We see that people seem to be filtering in the room. We saw a head there walking up and taking a seat. So again, we're expecting this to happen any minute now. That game literally just finished. I'm not sure how long it takes for them to get from there to the clubhouse, but as soon as we have that started, we'll bring you back out to that shot live, and we'll listen in to Don together live. We're going to take a break real quick, and I also want to let you know that national news is still ahead. Dolly Parton is battling some illnesses. We'll talk about it when we come back. All right, you guys remember we're on Podium Watch. Any minute now, Don Mattingly, the interim manager for the Philadelphia Phillies, is expected to take over and talk to us about this big win against the A's. Again, this is just game 1 of 3 in a bigger series, so we're expecting he's going to be excited, but I also have a feeling he's probably going to come out and be very level-headed as they keep their head down, their nose down to the ground as the games continue. But I also wanted to make sure that we're keeping up to date on some of the trending stories. These are things that people are watching, searching on Google for all across the United States. Dolly Parton is probably one of the top stories. We know that she has decided to cancel her Las Vegas residency. Now, she had previously postponed it due to some health challenges. She says that now she is feeling a little bit worse, but she says that everything that she has, whatever those things are, she says everything is treatable. Now, she said that some of those health challenges that she's facing, they're leaving her, and I quote, feeling swimmy headed. She says it's a term that her grandmother used to use. But she says that I assume swimmy headed means dizzy, because she says that she doesn't want to feel dizzy when she's carrying around those banjos, the guitars, and of course she's going to be walking around in 5-inch heels. Now, she's not going to leave the heels alone, so she decided she's going to take a seat, take a rest, take a beat, and then hopefully if she's feeling a little bit better after she is treated, hopefully that she'll get back on the stage again. Now, you know, Dolly Parton is 80 years old. She don't look it, so I think sometimes we all forget, but she's 80 years old and she's just trying to do the best to take care of herself. So I have a feeling not a lot of fans are going to be so upset with her decisions there. She didn't tell us too much more about whatever those health concerns she's having right now are, but she did say that in the past she's had some problems with kidney stones. She's also complained before about her immune system and her digestive system. So we're all praying for Dolly, hoping that she comes back out even better, swinging even harder than she did before. And we know that she says she's still working on opening up a museum and a hotel in Nashville, as well as her forthcoming Broadway musical called Dolly, a true original musical. It should be opening in New York later this year, a very big deal. And while we're talking about the world of entertainment, let's get on over to sports. I hear Stefon Diggs, remember that trial that's going on where he's been accused of assault by his personal chef? That has entered deliberations with the jury trying to decide whether to decide that he's innocent or guilty in this case. Now, we heard multiple people testify over the last 2 days. Today, it was all women on a panel speaking about their personal relationships with him. A lot of them worked for him, but a lot of them also discussed that chef that I was telling you about. One person in particular, it was his hairdresser. She said that she saw that personal chef in the days after, like immediate days after she says this alleged abuse occurred, and she said that she didn't see her with any injuries. Diggs was formally charged on December 29th, and just in case you're, relatively into sports, you feel like you recognize this name, but you're not quite sure where. He's an NFL wide receiver. He was released from the Patriots back in March, even though he has always said that he didn't do this. He's claimed that he's not guilty and even pleaded not guilty in this particular case. But his former chef alleges that he attacked her at his home in December of 2025. So again, let's get into that. Before we do, we see that they've just sat down. Don Mattingly has taken to the microphone. Let's listen into that press conference live.
Obviously nice when he's throwing like that. Keeping his pitch count down so you're at a point where you know that as long as he keeps things under control there, that you're in a good spot with him, and knowing you're going to be able to get kind of through where you want to get to. Obviously really good. Really good.
Is that the best you've seen him this year?
Yeah, probably for me. Yeah, I wasn't here obviously before, but I've just seen him throwing the ball good all year long. It's just like some of the results haven't been as good, and I think that was part of everything that nothing seemed to be going our way early, and now we've kind of got it going in a direction that we like.
What's that feeling like as a hitter? Is 2 strikes, the changeup is coming, and then he throws it, and you still swing and miss it?
You're asking me?
Yeah.
Miss a few times. He puts you in a bind, right? Because he's got the sinker. that he, in both sides of the plate, and the changeup looks just like it. The slider comes in, so he puts you in a bind at the bottom of the zone. You're trying to push him up, but when he's getting ahead in the count like that and throwing strikes, he's forcing you to swing the bat, and then you got to deal with, basically 3 different pitches there with the sinker, the change in the breaking ball. So it's like, and they all seem to tunnel right out of the same spot, and that's really where it gets tough.
What have you seen from Stott the last few days that's allowed him to kind of get in this hot stretch?
Just getting going, right? He swung the bat really good in spring. We've seen a lot of this in spring. Didn't get off to the start probably that he would want to. Everybody wants to get off to a good start, but he stayed with what he's been doing. His work didn't really change. And we had a stretch there where it was sporadic with a lot of lefties, where he wasn't getting any consistent bats, so the rhythm that you get is not the same.
This is the first time you've been on the side where Harper's red hot. What's it like seeing him up close?
No, that's been good too. I've seen him both ways. I've seen him where he struggles a little bit, not very often, but I've also seen it when he gets going, it seems to just continue. And his at-bats have obviously been great. I like the patience when they're trying not to really throw him a strike and get him to chase. So, just be willing to take your walks there is important for us, I think, and to trust the next guy. In that spot, Garcia gets a guy in, just huge for us, right? That we can produce behind him, give us a little bit of breathing room, and then we're able to break through. Those first few innings are games that kind of make you uncomfortable because you had chances. First inning, second inning, I think it was the fourth, where we had guys out there all the time and weren't able to kind of run them, push them through. So you had chances, but the guys stayed with it tonight. We finally broke through. JT, then Stott, right? It just kind of added on, and that was a lot better situation for us right at the end of the game.
What'd you like out of Turner's at bats tonight?
Getting better. It's the thing about Trey. He's going to hit, and when he's struggling, obviously he's not happy about it, and he's working. And anytime guys keep working, and they have ability, they're going to start. It's going to happen, right? It's if he wasn't hitting and not working, it's different. That you don't. Just believing that you gotta. If you're not going good, you keep working and stay with it.
What have you seen from Brandon Marsh? 3 for 4 tonight, now hitting .325 on the season.
He's been great. He's probably been one of our, if not our most consistent guy, kind of all year long. He's been swinging the bat good. I actually love seeing it because I feel like he's a really, really good hitter. Seen him when he was young in the fall league. Seen him from the other side. I know he struggled in California. They did a nice job with him here, though, and you're starting to see hopefully the consistency throughout the year, what he can be.
Sanchez was at 97 pitches to rate. Was there any thought about getting the complete game?
We knew Duran was pitching today. He was pitching no matter what today. The one thing that might have changed it, where Sanchez's pitch count was, if he hadn't given up any hits, and that would have been a lot. That would have been a different thing. But that would have been. I've been in those where you almost gotta. If that was the case, I would have let him go, and his pitch count was good. But we knew after 8, getting through that top at the end there, he got through Rooker, I believe it was, and that's a tough spot. With the guys up top. So it wasn't hard tonight. It may have been hard a different night.
What do you think of Duran's outing first off the IL?
Rusty, right? And I'm glad it was in a game like that, because if it was a 1-0 game and Sanchez was out of pitches, it would have been Duran. So good to get that outing under his belt, get him out there. We knew we knew he was healthy, but and he threw the hitters in his pin and things like that with guys standing in there, but it's not quite the same. So to get him out there in a game where you can let him go, and it was, I think good for us, good for him in that situation. Thank you.
All right, so as we heard there, he wrapped up this incredible game that we just saw, but of course we hope that we can do it again for the rest of the series and then hopefully pull out a much bigger win. The city of Philadelphia really needs it right now, you guys. I've been talking to the sports team back and forth about some of our other games. It kind of seemed like we all just took a deep collective breath together yesterday, especially with the Sixers. That wasn't a pretty game, but we still have more this week, so we can prove ourselves, or show ourselves approved. That's the term I'm looking there for. Again, some other big games that are coming up. Let me go back over our schedule just to keep you guys up to date. I'm hearing that we've got where did it go? Here we go. Okay. So the Sixers are supposed to play their game 2 tomorrow night back in New York. Hopefully we're a little stronger against the Knicks. Now, if they win that, the series would be tied 1-1. Great thing. But if they lose, the Sixers would head home Friday down 0-2 in the series. The Flyers are supposed to play on Thursday. Another big thing, they're going to face the Carolina Hurricanes in their game 3. This is the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs in Philadelphia. So very, very big deal for the city of Philadelphia. Carolina right now leads the series 2-0 after going to overtime with a loss last night. So again, we're going to keep our eyes on everything that's happening in terms of sports. And I also want to remind you all that before that press conference, I was talking to you about the Stephon Diggs trial, and I had ramped up to tell you all about this testimony from his hairdresser, who said that in the days after this alleged abuse at the hands of Stephon Diggs, they say against the former chef of his, that she saw that former chef, and she says she didn't see any injury or any indication that there had been some type of attack. I want to let you guys listen into her testimony earlier today.
Did there come a time where Ms. Adams asked you to take a look at her hair?
Yes.
Can you, what was that? How did that come about?
So I was supposed to do her hair. So a stylist, I would analyze her hair, I would lift it up just to see if, the style that we was going to do. I was trying to decide on the style that we was going to do. So I did have close-up view to her neck and her hair.
Okay. And in the course of lifting her hair and looking at her neck, did you see anything?
No.
Okay. Do you remember taking a couple of videos of Ms. Adams while you were together in New York?
Yes, I do.
Do you remember approximately when that was?
Possibly December 7th or 8th, around that time.
Okay. And I will ask Mr. Kettlewell to very smoothly play Exhibit 8, please. Okay, and we can just pause that. Sorry. Ms. Moses, is this one of the videos that you took of Ms. Adams?
Yes, it is.
All right, and can you just describe where you are?
We were in Shire's room there, and we were just goofing around, listening to music and dancing and stuff.
Okay. And then if you could just complete that video, please. All right, and then Mr. Kettlewell, if you could play Exhibit 9, please. And can you just hit pause for a second? Thank you. Is this the other video that you took of Ms. Adams?
Yes, it is.
And that was on that trip in New York?
Yes, it is.
Between December 2nd and December 9th?
Yes.
Okay. And was this close in time to the first video?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mr. Kettlewell, if you could keep playing.
Hey, 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 hey.
And was that video that you took, was that consistent of how Miss Adams was being with you?
Yes.
Okay. Did anyone ask you to take that video?
No.
But Miss Adams knew you were filming her?
She did.
Okay. And the entire time that you were with Miss Adams in New York City, did she mention anything about being hit?
She did not.
Did she mention anything about being choked?
No, she did not.
Did she say or do anything that suggested to you that Steph Diggs had hurt her or scared her in any way?
She did not.
Okay. I have no further questions.
All right, so that was the hairstylist, as you heard, testifying that days after that alleged abuse took place, she says that she saw the former chef and that she looked fine, that there were no signs of any abuse. She hadn't mentioned anything of any abuse. And I want to let you all know that that jury did come back with their verdict. They decided that NFL wide receiver Stephon Diggs is not guilty of strangulation or the assault and battery charges that he had been facing in this particular case. So the jury deliberated for about 90 minutes there. They came back into the courtroom, just asked the judge a quick question. The judge did answer. They went back, continued deliberating, and returned shortly after that with a not guilty verdict on both accounts. And so I was telling you all about the original situation where he was accused of that abuse, of that attack. This took place on December 2nd, 2025, so roughly a month before Christmas. That former chef, her name is Jamila Adams, she took the stand. Of course, she said that he had attacked her, he had entered her bedroom. She said he smacked her with an open hand and then wrapped his arm around his neck and choked her. But of course, after hearing all the testimony for the last 2 days, the jury decided that Stephon Diggs is not guilty of the crimes he has been accused of. And I also want to remind you all that he was released from his football team based on these accusations, the Patriots, back in March. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with his career moving forward. But I wanted to make sure that I brought you all that news. Let's take a quick step back. When we come back, I want to talk to you about some other trending stories. Then we'll go over our question of the night. It's all about Spirit Airlines when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray. I had to bring Jake Leonard back up to the desk for our trending news of the night. What are the people looking at? What are they clicking on? What are they watching?
Well, thank you for having me back.
Of course.
And so I have a really interesting story that was doing well on our website.
Okay.
So this comes from an incident that occurred earlier today at a lake at Continental Soldiers Park in New Jersey.
Okay.
So basically, an 8-year-old boy was with his family. I believe they were fishing, whatever. He saw a beaver, and he kind of went down to see it, and he got attacked by the beaver.
Aren't they docile creatures?
Yes, but I believe this was a rabid beaver.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a video of it, but I want you guys to go on our website and see it, fox29.com. There is some language, so we couldn't show it.
Okay.
But if you want to, I'll describe it, but if you want to see it, definitely check it out. We have it posted on social. So basically, the kid attempted to run away, tripped, and when he tripped, that's when the beaver jumped out of the water and bit him. So it's a rabid beaver, so that's not good.
No, not at all. He's going to need shots.
Yes. So obviously the family members and everyone who he was with, intervened. They grabbed him. They pulled him out, but it was a scary situation. And the family, it was interesting, had dogs. And the dogs, while this was all going on, they were trying to fight the beaver too.
A shout out to the dogs.
Yes. So very good dogs. So obviously the beaver was captured and tested positive for rabies. So it's confirmed that the beaver has rabies because they tested it. It's not just they're assuming because of the attack.
The behavior.
So then obviously the boy and other people who might have gotten bitten or just been involved also are receiving the proper treatment. So
Goodness. Okay. Wow. When about did this happen? Are we thinking it was sometime today or?
So the boys' attack happened today. I want to say it kind of happened around the time I got in, so maybe a little bit before 2. But so the police do believe, based on reports that they've gotten, that earlier in the day there were other groups who encountered this beaver. Yes. Because like you said, beavers are usually not like this, and there were multiple reports of an aggressive beaver. So obviously anyone who even questions if they were in contact, just go check it out, just to be safe.
Wild story. Okay, so I've heard of bobcat attacks or another dog attacking, or if you're just really got bad luck, a wolf attack.
Yes.
But a beaver, and I was trying not to make the joke because this is a serious situation.
Yes.
That's why I asked when did it happen.
Yes.
But angry beavers.
Yes.
I had to do it. It was low hanging fruit. But it is good to know that they caught on to this.
Yes, definitely.
Pretty quickly. Unfortunately, that boy had to be attacked first.
Yes.
But that they caught on to this situation and hopefully are going to. So did they, I assume, put the beaver down?
I'm not sure. The beaver's definitely captured. They tested it for rabies.
Yes, you did tell me that it was a positive test.
I'm assuming they put the beaver down, but I'm not entirely sure.
Okay. All right. Well, good. How did you guys obtain the video?
It was posted. Someone posted it on Facebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we got the permissions. Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And seeing that kind of situation, we live in a day and age where people are normally taking pictures, videos anyway. It was probably a lovely family outing, and then all of a sudden.
And then, and it was someone just happened to be there and was look at this moment. So.
Yikes.
Yeah, so if you want to hear more about this situation and see the video, go to fox29.com where we have an article posted.
And I also love to remind you guys, we have the free Fox Local app as well.
Yes.
So if you guys wanted to check it out there too, make sure you go download the app.
Yes.
All right. So that's one of our biggest trending stories. We also have been talking to the people about Spirit Airlines.
Yes.
It's very big. May 2nd, that is when Spirit decided to call it quits. They said they just didn't have the funds to keeping up with the Joneses, right? These high fuel costs that all of us are feeling when it comes to trying to put gas into our cars. Well, they've been feeling that too as it comes the airport, trying to get all the planes out to point A and point B, wherever it is that you need to go. And reminder, Spirit is extremely affordable. Well, was extremely affordable. It was a great option for those of you who wanted to get out, see more of the world, more of the country, I should say, but didn't want to pay an arm and a leg just to do so. And they say that now that Spirit is gone, it could be a much bigger issue, that those other airlines that maybe they were only keeping their prices so low, which all of us have been thinking is high anyway, but so low because of an airline like Spirit. And now that it's gone, they don't have that incentive anymore.
It was definitely a kind of checks and balance system of some sort. And that is the big argument that a lot of people are using as to why they're upset. So we ran a poll on fox29.com/go-vote, Fox Local tab, of course, asking people, how do you feel about the Spirit Airlines shutdown? So we have a couple different options. Good riddance, not missed, 36%, upset, more money to fly now. Oh,
people are voting as we speak.
40%, now the two are tied. Stressed, need to rebook at 16%, and then 4% of people left a comment. So I didn't bring this up the first time that we talked about this, but I actually know someone who was supposed to fly Spirit, literally was going to a graduation this week, and then all of a sudden heard the news when the rest of the world did, had to run and completely rebook her entire trip.
So I'm glad that she was able to do it.
Yes, so this is happening to people everywhere.
Yeah, okay, so let's go off of that vein, because I heard that other airlines are stepping in where some Spirit customers had to hurry up and try to figure something else out. I heard some airlines were doing like 50% off their tickets and just doing other things that could help you all out. But also to your friend or the person that you knew who had to like hurry up and do things because they learned when the world learned. There were some employees who didn't even learn when the world learned. I heard that there were some employees that still showed up to various airports for their shift only to find out you don't have a job anymore. That's crazy.
It's a crazy situation, and we have people weighing in on socials. Let me read a couple of responses. So on Facebook, Jason said, like the cheaper rates for quick trips, as you said. So, and they mentioned that the shareholders had voted to a merger with JetBlue earlier, and then the government stepped in. We see what happened. So he's saying, which is so valid, that basically he's seeing the opposite result than what was originally promised. You know, so the merger was supposed to be a good thing. A lot of people were excited by it, but then now all of a sudden it's kind of like taken away. So then Tracy was also weighed in and said she was supposed to take it to Fort Myers on Friday. So again, another example of someone who had a trip this week. Luckily, now she's taking Allegiant, but to a different airport in Florida. So.
And not for nothing, I mean, a trip to the airport is stressful enough.
Yes.
Especially for those of us who get there late, and then you got to figure everything else out when you get there. But then to learn that your flight is no longer a thing, and you got to hurry up and just try to squeeze around and figure out what you're going to do. Maybe spend a lot more money because, as I mentioned, Spirit was very cheap. I want to say the cheapest I've seen a Spirit Airlines flight was $15. Now, it wasn't that far of a flight, but $15. And I think the most and I've flown Spirit before, and the most I've ever paid was definitely under $200, and that was to go a couple of states across. So not bad at all.
I'm very curious to see what the other airlines do in the long run, because as you said, there's a lot of like deals right now to get people to fly them and stuff, but what's it gonna happen how's it gonna impact things in the long run? Because I know a couple summers ago I was in Europe, and they have a bunch of airlines that were almost the European Spirits, but there were a bunch of options versus us. We only kind of had the one big Spirit. There are other airlines that are similar, but they don't have the range that Spirit does. We were talking about earlier about the Atlantic City Airport. That was like kind of the big one. So it leaves a bunch of questions. Obviously we'll be following the story, keeping you guys updated as we learn more, but it's a really interesting thing. I never thought that the airline would just completely shut down.
Not at all. and I mean, I'll put another one out there. I think right now all that we have left really is dang it, Frontier.
Yes.
And then of course they're putting out other airlines like Breeze, and I can't
Yes.
remember the other one that they keep saying. But I actually hadn't heard about those until hearing that Spirit was no
Yeah.
longer a thing, and now I'm hearing about more airlines that are stepping up. I had only heard about Frontier before, so we're all gonna probably be doing our research, unless you guys are just diehard Delta, American,
Yes.
United, whatever it is that you fly. Let me know in the comment section.
Yes.
And just remind the people, we had this Go Vote up, but just in future, because we ask a question every single night where you guys can weigh
Yes.
in. Where do they go?
Yeah, we love for you guys to be involved, love hearing what you think, comments. As always, the Go Vote, fox29.com/Go Vote, always the Fox Local tab. But if you want to weigh in, leave a comment, let us know what you think. Check us out on Instagram, Fox29 Philly. We always post it on the story, so you can swipe up.